off.
Let's kick off.
Here. Well then, welcome back to Against the Grain. This is a different setup today. We have a full house here, so every seat on our couches is taken.
I don't even know.
Tash isn't on camera, no.
Oh, okay.
But Tash is here.
Sitting right next to you. I just wondered whether...
Tash today is our female counterpart because Sarah's not here.
Are you sure she's not on the camera? Because the blue light, you're covering the blue light. Tash, you're in the
Alright.
bloopers reel.
You've got her attention though, that's for sure. She's just jumped.
You're good. Even if you are on camera, it's all right. Anyway, you're good. But today's an exciting one. We have 3 fathers here to talk about something that's definitely not talked about enough, I think, and probably mostly because we don't really have the opportunity to talk about it. This is special for me because, please God, one day I'll be a father, and so I just can't wait to hear all about the experiences and things that you guys...
I think we might change your mind by the end of the talk.
Possibly, you know. Maybe not the first
father
talk you want to know about, but good after
no,
Lent,
I'm sure there'll be plenty of beautiful things that we're hearing today. So thank you guys for joining us.
No worries.
We have Charbel, who has made a cameo on has made a cameo on Against the Grain. I think one of our final episodes or something like that. But Charbel's my brother, for anyone watching or listening who doesn't know. My brother Charbel. We have Elias, otherwise known as Louis.
Yep.
And Joe.
Hey, mate.
Thank you guys for coming on.
No worries.
What I'll do, just to start off with, if you guys don't mind, is I'll just get you to really introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about who you are, if you don't mind. Whoever wants to start. Joe?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Joe. Right on time.
Sorry.
You're right.
There's always an alarm that goes off in this podcast. Sorry.
Yeah, my name's Joe. I have 5 kids. The eldest is 7. I have 2 boys and 3 girls. So 7, 6, 4, 3, and turning 1 next month. So, Leah is my second eldest, my eldest daughter, and she has an undiagnosed condition at the moment, which is sort of affecting her muscle makeup. So she's got global weakness and a neuromuscular disorder that they haven't been able to sort of pick up on yet. But and I'm one of 6 boys myself. Grew up in the area. Grew up in Belfield and then moved to Greenacre. Always followed the dogs and have to put that in there.
We got Louis shaking his head.
Well, practicing Catholics, you don't follow the team named after a saint. It's disappointing. But anyway, no, that's all right. I'll forgive you. Elias or Louis, I don't know. You guys get that a lot. You know, a boys call it Elias, and for some reason the Lebs call him Louis. I don't know what
always. That's right.
Never been able to figure out. Anyways, father of 5, married to the beautiful Teresa. Have been with her. Actually, Joey was there when I met her. We used to go to Meadowbank TAFE. That's where I met the wife. In 2003. No, 2002. It was the year after I left school. Married to 5 kids, 2 girls, 3 boys. Oldest is 16, so we've got two in the teen years. One's about to enter it, so it's very fun in the household at the moment. Got 3 sisters, mum and dad from Lebanon, from the great Raish, as we established here tonight.
Yes.
Been following, like I said, outside of work, and I've been a massive footy follower my whole life. Ever since I could kick a footy around. Apart from that, grew up in a loving household. We weren't really, I wouldn't say Catholic and practicing, but the faith was there in other ways. It kind of came through in almost in the culture. Like it was forbidden to talk about certain things. You can't do this and don't say that. Hey, babe, you shouldn't do this type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right,
so in a way we didn't know. We were being brought up Catholic. My mum was the most devout one. She'd be the one. I'd wake up 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. She'd be there on the chair praying. All that. And that's some of the memories I have growing up. So it was beautiful. But 5 5 beautiful children, married. Emmanuel is the youngest, and he's the one with special needs. He was diagnosed with, I'm going to get this wrong, so the wife's probably just staring at me now, going, better get this.
The pressure.
It's orthogonal transcarb myeloblasts, or OTC. And just to cut a long story short, it's a deficiency in your liver where it's a missing enzyme. So your liver, it acts as a filter to your body. So your body converts protein to ammonia, and then your liver is responsible for getting rid of that. He was missing that enzyme. And then what's happened is it's poisonous. It's like ammonia is like, it's almost like acid. Like, it's amazing what your body gets rid of. Like, half the stuff that you get, it's crazy. But anyways, cut a long story short, he couldn't get rid of it. So it spread to his body, got to his brain, got about 70 to 80% brain damage. It happened, it's one of those conditions where you have to diagnose for it specifically. Like, it came out of the blue. We had no idea. So a couple of days after he was born, actually no, the day he got home. So he was born on June the 5th. June the 6th, we got him home because the wife, after the second child, she wouldn't stay in the hospital for longer than a day. She was like, get me out, I'm sweet.
Yep.
Came home, and I'm probably going to the story a little bit earlier, but yeah, then we noticed something's wrong. I'll go into it a little bit later. And the next 2 or 3 weeks were a massive trial in, I mean, I wouldn't say faith. It was, yeah, I wouldn't say the faith was questioned, but it was a massive trial in resilience, really.
Sure.
That was hell on earth, like almost hell on earth. The biggest thing for me was not knowing. There was that week, 4 or 5 days, where the doctor's like, we don't know what's going on here, but we need to get him on. Like, we took him to Nepean because it was the day after where he started having convulsions and he was just non-responsive. And then I get a call from while the wife's at Nepean saying we have to rush him to Randwick Hospital because they think it's quite serious. So they've stopped the ambulance twice on the way to Randwick because his heart stopped. And it's funny, we got to the hospital, my dad and I got to the hospital, and they were wheeling, it was Randwick Children's, they were wheeling a child. I didn't recognize him because he had that many people around him, and I didn't recognize him until Teresa, my wife, walked in behind him, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's... Wow. So we're standing in a room, and it was, 20 people surrounded. It was quite, obviously, traumatic. The worst part was not knowing what it was. The next 3 or 4 days, tests after tests after tests after... God knows what else. I remember one night I said to the doctor, we need to get a priest in to baptize him. He said, we think it's a good idea.
Right.
Because we don't know if he's going to make it through the night, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, we'll go into detail a little bit later. And then here we are, 6 years later. He's, he's with us, obviously. He's non-responsive. He's got no function. He's got very sporadic movements. He can't feed through the mouth. He has to be fed through a peg through his stomach. So it's basically a tube that goes straight into his stomach, and all his food is pureed, which the wife does. The wife, like I said, my wife Teresa's. I didn't before. You think you knew your faith before that, right? And I didn't really believe, God sends special kids to certain people. But then watching my wife, you think, okay, she was chosen for this, because I don't think anyone else could have handled it the way she did. She's it's to go through what she goes through day in, day out. 4 kids on top, or 5 kids if you include me on top of that, having to manage all that. So it's been, like I said, it's a tough. If you told me 6-7 years ago you're going to be the father of a special needs child, I'm like, no, you picked the wrong guy. I got more chance of becoming an NRL first grade player than watching a special needs child. But
those chances are low.
I'll probably make the Dragons team at the moment, not the Bulldogs team. But here we are. So.
Wow.
It's a struggle, day in, day out. It's a struggle, but we make it work.
Thanks for sharing that, man. Well, I want to preface it with, it's the first time I've ever met Louis, and same with you, Anthony. I've known Joe, and we've been here for like a couple of hours, and we purposely didn't talk about any of this, just so that we can really nut it out kind of authentically. But that's beautiful, man. I actually did not know any of that about you, so thanks for sharing, and I'm really looking forward to delving deeper in sharing more with each other about all our experiences. But I'm Charbel. I made a cameo once on the Against the Grain podcast. But Anthony kindly, firstly, again, I'll preface it with this. Joe, thank you for being the one to suggest having this type of conversation together, because I think it's a really, 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 really important one that, as Anthony touched on, people don't have these days. and there's a number of reasons why. And one of those Anthony mentioned. The other I would say is stigma. Just the fact that men, there's this kind of, there's this stigma that men don't talk about their feelings or don't talk about their problems or anything like that. But this is one of those things that I think is extremely important to talk about, shed light on, and hopefully cater towards different families who may have children who have special needs, or for those who are just learning that their children have special needs. So anyway, thank you, Joe, for making this happen, and then also thank you to Anthony for very kindly offering us to have this conversation on your podcast. So I really appreciate you doing something like this for us. But I'm Charbel. I'm a father of 3 children. I have Selena, who's 5, Jacob, who is 3.5. Sorry, Tash. 3.5? No, nearly 4. That's right. And Olivia, who is 11 months. And my little boy Jacob is pretty average, typical boy, apart from his sensory preferences and sort of sensitivities that we're kind of navigating through at the moment. There are some areas of that that we find challenging at the moment, and we're still learning a lot more. So that's my little boy, Jakey. But what else? My wife, Natasha, who's here in the room that you guys can't see. My kids are asleep upstairs, and she's joined us for the first time. So
your kids have also made many cameos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In the podcast, but
80% of the
unintended
podcast.
Unintended,
They make the blooper reel.
in the audio of the podcast.
Whenever you hear a very extremely high-pitched squeal, that's Jacob.
I did a podcast. It was Wine with Rita, and the kids just wouldn't sleep. And in the background, you could just hear them screaming. And because I knew I was, recording, I'm like, I'm not going to be dad right now. I've got to stay calm. Otherwise, I'd be like, shut up.
You got the 3-finger warning happening on the side. Also Anthony's brother. We're one of 5 children. We were raised, practicing Catholics, really, our whole lives. Like, I would probably say, like mass goers every Sunday. Anthony tends to disagree. I don't know if you want to share this. I mean, in the Lebanese culture anyway, it's really like, it's really a part of it's like a cultural part of our faith. It's a cultural faith. The faith is like inherently a part of our culture. So it definitely was it was that at least. But then I would say maybe a little bit more than that, because we were still going to mass every Sunday and whatnot. So and then I think it was probably 2012. 2012 when I really started to explore our faith on a deeper level. So that's me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, again, like, we just want this to be, just sort of a casual conversation. Like, feel free to, like Charbel was saying earlier, take the lead whenever you want. This isn't just sort of me interviewing you guys or anything like that. So feel free to really take over.
Well, if you don't mind, then I just want to. I know a lot about you, not everything, Joe, but just to kick things off and start, just to get to know you a little bit better, Louis, because first time I've met you, don't know your story at all, but you've said some really interesting things about your family and particularly your boy Emmanuel. So can you just shed light on maybe the overall situation, how you came to find out that so it sounded like from what you were saying that it was OTC.
Yep.
So this was recognized at birth. It wasn't during her pregnancy. It was literally he was born and they noticed something.
It was a spontaneous mutation, is what they called it.
Right.
So to explain the condition OTC, there was only it's a very specific diet that you can have. You can't have too much protein. You can't have too much carbohydrates.
Right.
Yeah, the way to fix that is to have a liver transplant, which he did later on, or 8 months later, actually, 9 months later.
Right.
But this particular condition, so it's interesting because I asked the question, I'm like, how did we know before? How did he survive in the womb? Like the wife was eating everything, as pregnant women tend to do. Sorry. I asked. I remember we were talking about it. Like they go, the placenta acted as a filter. It was protecting your son. But then it's not until after when she started breastfeeding, and then the nutrients and whatever started. And then that's basically. I don't want to sound too harsh. When we started feeding is when it really accelerated the condition.
Mm-hmm. So the condition was probably already there. But it wasn't identified until the feeding started.
Yeah, it's quite a rare. I don't know what the number is, but it's quite a rare occurrence for it to happen. And they say the way that we not cure it, but we manage it is he gets a liver transplant. So what happened? We brought him home, as I mentioned before. Brought him home. There's about 2. I remember I told the wife it was day 2, and it was a Wednesday. I remember Wednesday because I was watching Origin. And I'm sorry, I'm a Queenslander, so go Queensland.
Oh well,
I'm one of them. Now I remember watching it, and it was game 2. Anyways, I saw the wife. She came home. I go, give me the bottle, whatever. Go to bed. I'll sleep with Emmanuel tonight. You need to rest. So I was feeding him, and then about 12:30, I've just noticed he's a bit lethargic, and he's not bright. He's not feeding. He's a bit, a little bit, not responsive. Like he'd moved to the touch or whatever. And then I woke the wife up. I go, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. He's just not feeding. She's like, I'll get up. I can't sleep anyways. And she came back an hour later. She goes, no, he's not right. He's cold to the touch. I've taken his temperature. It was at 35. So she's called the ambulance. They've come in. They've gone up, bring him straight back in immediately to Nepean Hospital.
This is day 1, day 2?
This is day 2. So he was born on the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's come home. The first day he's come home. So I think it may even been day 3. No, I'm pretty sure it was day 2 actually. And then, anyways, ambulance show up. They take him in. And then like I said, when in my mind, nothing was serious. And we just thought, okay, they thought bring him back in. Maybe we just need to monitor him for a bit longer. Maybe you went home too early or whatever. Right. So the wife was in the Nepean Hospital, and then I get a call about 9 or 10 a.m. They go, he's not, like, he's having convulsions. It's bad. They've got a whole team here. They're talking to Westmead. They're talking to Randwick. We're trying to find out what the problem is here. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, they literally had like basically a conference call right there on the spot. They're saying, these are the symptoms. What is it? And I think there was a doctor or a professor at Randwick said, we're pretty sure we know what this is. You need to bring here like real quick. You don't have much time. So then she's called. And at that time, I'd made my way over to my parents' house in Greenock, and I had my kids there. Mum's like, just bring the kids here, as all tetas do. Let me take care of the kids, all right? So I get a call about 10:30. About 9:30, 10, and the wife's on the phone. They go, we're taking him to Randwick. He's not right. He's having convulsions. Because she was speaking to, one of the professors was speaking to a doctor was speaking to a professor in Randwick. Mm. And then the nurses were kind of in the room, but they were looking at her on the phone. And she's the one that's turned around and said, look at him, because he started to convulse. And then she's describing what's going on the phone. They're like, get him to Randwick right now, like immediately. So yeah, we've gone. She's called me. She's told me what's happened, and that's when it's like, oh, hang on, there's something not right here. That's where it kind of dawned on me. That's okay. It's starting to get a little bit serious here. What's maybe epilepsy or something. We don't know.
Right.
So my dad and I jumped in the car. We drove to Randwick, and we got there before them. And I immediately thought that's weird. Like they're in a hospital in an ambulance, but that's when later on they wheeled him in, and the wife told me that we stopped twice because his heart stopped. And the second one, when they stop, the paramedics go and put the lights on and go. Don't stop for anything. Like, obviously, it's an emergency now. Mm-hmm. So we got to the hospital. And then it's Randwick emergency. It's weird. Like, Randwick emergency isn't... it's like this one... As I remember... Now, you're going back 8-9 years now. 6 years. Yeah. It's just this one big room. And they're not cornered. Like, you can see all the other patients, and there's no... what do they call it? The curtains or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, so I can see him standing there, and there's like 30 people surrounding him. And they're saying, we need to get this done, bang. Then they pulled me and the wife into a room. Mm-hmm. I think you were there. Was that the... Yeah. It may have been later on. They said, we need to get testing done. We think we know what this is, right? But we need to do the test now. We need your consent. they basically put a sense of urgency that we need to know now because he doesn't have much time. Like, if it is what it is, we've got to filter his blood. He had no less than 40, 50 lines they need to put in.
Wow. Is this all, sorry to jump in here, but is this all within a matter of a couple of hours or something like that?
Basically, from when I got a call.
That was now day 3 by the time to get to Randwick.
So we've been up, say, since 2 o'clock in the morning after he went back to Nepean. Then it's about 9:30 that same morning. I get the call from the wife, we're going to Randwick, this is what's happened. Then we're at Randwick that day about 1, 2 p.m. It was. I remember just being range of emotions. There's hope. No, there isn't. No brain activity. Yes, there is. No, there isn't. This is what it is. Call the priest. Do this. Don't do this. Come see him because we don't know if you'll be able to see him again, type of thing. It was all like, it was just bang. And now this is coming. It's the wife has just given birth. So that's like obviously an ordeal in itself. We both hadn't slept. They said we need to get this tested now, or we need to send his blood off now and confirm that this is what it is. Okay, we'll go ahead and do it. No problem. So then it was a few hours that passed, and then we went back and we saw Emmanuel, and then they'd already hooked him up. So basically what they were doing is they were filtering every drop of blood they could through a machine to clean it, and then filtering it back into him. I've got pictures at home, but I remember looking at them like, wow. Like even a few weeks ago I was looking at it, and there was lines everywhere. Had a central line.
So many cables.
Hey?
So many, I remember.
Yeah, Joey was there.
So the blood, is this dialysis? Is this for the kid, like going through the kidneys? Is that what it is? Or
No,
was it literally just like the blood?
Filtering his blood. There you go. We need to filter.
Entire...
Yeah. So his ammonia levels, they say we get worried when it reaches 800. He's hit 1800 and it stayed there for a few hours.
Wow.
Anyway, so this is still in the point where they gave us an official diagnosis. Then it kind of settled. When I say settled, that was the status quo for a day or two. And I remember it was June 9th. I remember that day because that's when we had a big sort of like the professors, they blood test came back. So they put us in a room a bit bigger than this. And there must have been 20, 30 people in there. Doctors, professors, social workers, other people. So they're like, we've got the test back. We know what it is. We've confirmed what it is. But this is what's happened. So they confirm, they go, we don't know if he'll breathe on his own. We don't know if he'll feed. He definitely won't walk or move. They go, his brain scans have come back, 70 to 80% brain damage. So as a result of the ammonia spreading. So they go, as soon as it hit his brain, it was like acid on the brain. It ruined everything.
So with OTC, is it, when I was speaking to you, Joe, you mentioned that Louis' son has OTC. So I did a tiny bit of research just to see what it was. But is it the OTC in particular that causes the brain damage, or basically his condition, how he is now with the tube and all, is that
was the root cause
from OTC, or was it from the brain damage in particular? Are they two separate things? No. Or because what I was reading about OTC, there are some cases where brain damage doesn't potentially occur.
If they
is
get
that
it
true?
early enough, yeah.
Right.
If they get it, so what happens is they didn't know. By the time they figured out what it was too late. So it's an OTC. It's a deficiency in urethra cycle.
Right.
It's a missing enzyme, basically. That's what and then so by the time the ammonia reached the brain, and by the time they got to it,
it causes damage.
It's straight away. It's almost instant.
Yeah.
So anyways, we had in a room and they said, okay, so the news isn't great. Straight off the bat. 70 to 80% brain damage. He won't walk. He won't talk. We don't know if he'll breathe on his own. We don't know what. He's basically going to be confined to a wheelchair his whole life. And they go, and then the next thing was, we've got two options. The first one was we can let him slip away. And remember, look at him like, slip away, look. Slip away. Anyways, and the second one, we can continue treating him, and then we go from there. I go, what was the first option again? Slip away. And they're like, as in, let him die, basically. So that first option they gave us. Now, I don't want to, say anything bad against the hospital because they ended up saving his life. Look, we're blessed with the medical care we've got in Australia.
Sure.
Right, but yeah, the first one, that's when it hit me. Like in the space of 10 seconds, it's like, let him slip, like you're saying. They go, we think he's going to have a very low quality of life. And that's when I'm like, I remember looking out the window. It was the middle of winter, the trees. I'm thinking, this guy, they're saying that my son, like, It's not worth living. Like they want us to pull, well, not want us to pull the plug. An option is to pull the plug on him. And it was just silent. The wife and I were just silent for about 30 seconds. And then I remember one of the doctors saying, I go, well, that's not an option for us. And then I don't know why I remember this, but one of the doctors sitting outside the room, they go, well, if you want to continue treatment, we will absolutely support you. And I kind of sensed between the guy who was talking and between this doctor, there was a bit of a battle going on. Right. Like maybe I'm read too much into it. Like again, I was heaps emotional, like no sleep. We were completely exhausted. We just got even the news that our son's basically, like, you know, for want of a better term, you know, he's going to be in a wheelchair and basically low quality of life, as they say. And I just noticed that he's like, well, if you choose, and he said it more than once, and it was a bit of a backwards and forth. It's not intentional. He goes, but you got to understand. Like he'll say, the other doctor would say, we'll support you. We'll tell you everything that you needs to be done. Like there's services that can help you. But then this professor was saying, but keep in mind, this is what you like, you know, this is what your life is going to look like from now on. This is how you're going to be raising this child, so to speak. This is what the challenges you'll be confronted with. And he's like, but again, and then the other one chimed in again. He's like, but again, if you make the second decision, we will support you. And then at the end of the day, they kept talking for a little while, and then they all left, and they left us alone. And the wife knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad, but not to the point where they said, his life isn't worth living anymore. Like, his life isn't worth it anymore. Essentially is what one of the options was what they were saying. And then, anyways, I remember it was funny. He hadn't woken up at all. And then, after I'm thinking about it, and then the information just hits you like a wave. He's not going to talk. He's not going to walk. We don't know if we can feed him. And this is before we even started talking about a liver transplant for him. They go, if you get his diet wrong and you get too much protein or not enough or whatever, his ammonia levels go up again. His brain will be affected. Like it'll damage it even more. So you've got to be absolutely on point when you feed him. You're basically walking on a knife's edge the whole time until you can get that transplant. If you get that transplant, and if we deem he's worthy enough to get the transplant. So that's another decision that they potentially make. Is he worth it? Anyways, we walked out of the room and I was, wow, that's like, yeah, that was
a lot to process.
That's a lot to process. And I remember thinking, you know, what do I do? There was no ever real temptation to, you know, for that other, you know, for the first option. But when you're confronted with that, it's like, what do we do? Like it was almost like, I don't know, like I'm not trying to compare myself in any way. It was like almost a little mini Garden of Gethsemane. You're at your weakest point.
Yeah.
You know that scene in Passion? I'm not comparing myself to Christ in any way, but you know that scene where the devil's tempting Christ and then that snake comes out. And then you get all these thoughts in your head. Oh man, you won't be blamed for, you know, saying that, look, your child's look at the life he's going to have. Or that, like all the space of a minute or two. Like those thoughts come into your head and you got to resist. Obviously you have to resist them. But you're at your weak, like we hadn't slept in days. And it's funny, I remember thinking like, yeah, at that point, it's like, where are these thoughts coming from? Like, why would I even entertain that? And then it's not until I got back, or we got back to the bed where Emmanuel was. He'd opened his eyes for the first time, and that's when I'm like, yeah, no, it's kind of him saying to me, "I'm here."
Yeah.
No, don't go even thinking about that. And again, it was never a serious consideration, but when you're confronted with that picture, right, all sorts of bad thoughts. I mean, you know, not tempting thoughts, but those things cross your mind. You just can't help it. It's just human nature.
It's just natural.
It's just natural. You go, you know, how are you, like this guy who, you know, me, I'm nothing special by any stretch of the imagination. How on earth am I going to support my family with this? Like it's family life is beautiful, but it's also a struggle. It's a struggle with like with, you know, healthy kids, right? And then you've got this on top.
So you've spoken about kind of like a rundown on what happened like systematically, which sounds honestly like traumatic, to be honest. But talk, if you don't mind, and you know, talk us through like even just the first phone call that you received saying something's not right. This is your 5th child. Emmanuel's the youngest.
Yeah.
So you've gone through 4 healthy.
Yeah. Thank God.
Thank God. Pregnancies and children. So this is your 5th child, and you all of a sudden get a phone call saying something's not right. But not only is it not right, it's bad. How like from an emotional level, how did you respond? How did your wife respond? And kind of, did you just automatically go into, like, because it sounds like so much happened within a couple of days, and it was like, did you even have the opportunity to like process what was going on, or was it just a matter of like 100 professionals in the room saying, this is what it's going to look like and you need to make decisions?
Yep.
Like, I mean, talk through like maybe the emotional side of things, if you can.
When I alluded to it earlier, when the wife called the first time, said they're taking him to Randwick, and this is what's happened, or what is happening. That's when the stomach, like, when I'm like, wow, it was like a gut punch right there. It's like, no, this isn't like a jaundice or some other, like, sure. I don't want to call them minor, but something that can be, it's very treatable.
Yeah.
That's where it's sort of like, okay, no, there's something seriously wrong here. And immediately tears came to my eyes, couldn't help it. Yep. And my mum and my sisters have looked at me going, what's happening? I go, this is what's happened. And Teresa just called me saying they're taking him to Randwick. And I just remember thinking, like, okay, how? We brought him home. Like, I know he felt, he looked a bit sick last night, but like this morning. But then you just go through a range of things. Like, first it's shock. You're like, after that first call, it's from the wife, and then you're driving into Randwick. You're like, all right, you try to pick yourself up a little bit. It'll be okay. Yeah, it's serious, but you'll recover from this. Never in my wildest thoughts did I think wheelchair, 80% brain damage. We don't know if he's going to survive. We don't know how he's going to feed. It was like I mentioned before, a roller coaster. So on the way to the random, my dad's talking to me. He's like, Habiba, I know it's tough, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Like, we'll get through this. Don't worry about it. And then we got to the hospital, and then when I saw him, it was like, all right, you kind of steel yourself. Like, all right, try and be strong for your wife, be strong for your husband. Then they wheeled him in, and he's surrounded by all these people, and it's like, wow, then the reality gets thrust into your face again. No, it's not going to be okay. This is quite serious what's going on here, type of thing. Then days after that, like I said, before that, it's a play on your emotions according to the information they give you. There was one day where they said, we can't detect any brain activity. They did a brain scan. I think it's not a CAT scan, it's the other one. I think it may have been an ultrasound on his head. They go, we can't detect any brain activity. ECG. Kind of, yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Or EEG.
EEG. Yeah, sorry. ECG is the heart. Yeah, yeah.
That one, they're like, we can't detect any brain activity. Like, we think he's brain dead. Right. And then the next one came in. I don't know how. I'm it may have been a miracle or not, but they're saying, no, we've detected it. And the doctor's saying, I'm happy with the activity. Okay, great. A ray of hope. Fantastic, brilliant. I remember that we got those. We think, okay, it's going to be okay now. Then we had that big meeting the next day, like after it. They're saying, yeah, we detected brain activity, but we didn't tell you that. That's just brain activity. We didn't tell you the damage of it though. And then it's like, all right, up, down, and it's how you in terms of the range of emotions you go through. It's like it's everything. It's it's exhaustion. You got hope. Then you got I don't know what the word is for it, but like then you have your hopes dashed. Then you hope against hope. Like you hope against everything. It's somehow it's going to be okay. But then here's another message for you. No, we can't.
It's a roller coaster.
Pull the plug on your son. Yeah, it's a roller. Yeah, that's what it was. You've just got to take. There's no real way. There was no. I mean, prayer obviously helped. There's a church just down the road, around the corner. It was Our Lady of the Sacred Heart, and then we'd be frequenting the church the whole time. But then you just break down and just like it's what is going on here. It's literally like a wrecking ball through your life. Your world completely was just normal. Your wife's going to give birth. Let's plan the baptism. Not too big. Have this person. Don't have that. But the whole typical Lebo thing. We're going to try and do this. What do you want to name? Or we had the name ready. Boy or girl. Bang. Now we're just questioning. It's not naming. Not deciding his name. It's like we're basically deciding whether we're going to keep him alive or not.
But I think the name that you did give him was very fitting for helping in your decisions, in the sense that it means God is with us.
Yeah.
No matter what form you think of, the fact that you were seeing that hope in him showed that, God was with you.
Absolutely. You don't think of that at the time. I'll be honest with you, like the last thing it's that big in front of you. It's so all-consuming. It's so, it permeates through everything in your body. Didn't want to eat, couldn't sleep, obviously, couldn't drink. People are talking to me. The only real sense I got, I think Joey and I went for a walk and we went to, I think it was Oporto's down just around the corner. And I don't know why. Like, I remember him saying this, and he goes, "You know what they're saying, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, do you actually understand what they're saying?" I go, "Yeah, they're saying that my son's going to die. It's essentially is what they're saying." He's like, "Yeah." And that's what I was like. I think that was the first time I'd said it. Okay, my son's going to die, and that's when bang, it's like, whoa, okay. Like, how do you, you can, even to this day, you can't comprehend it. Your son is in real danger. He's and you can't do anything. You're at the mercy of the doctors, who are basically saying, we don't think he's worth it. These are your options, A or B. Take a ticket, go to the end of the line, type of thing. You know what I mean? It was pretty. How you handle that? Oh, like I said, I will say, and this is advice, and this is a faith advice. Make sure you've got people of the same mind and faith around you, because even after we'd made our decision, it said no, we're keeping him alive. Like it was never really in question.
Why wasn't it in question? Out of curiosity, because and I know you touched on the faith side of things, but sometimes it's beautiful that we've got our faith there, and it's important. And we understand the reasons why, the sanctity of life, all of these things. But when you're confronted with your own child, with professionals, 30 of them around you, who are telling you that whatever their version of what a normal life is, or whatever it may be, that he's not going to have that. And, your life is going to be extremely difficult. This is all happening so quickly, completely unexpected. How do you remain vigilant in the sense of this is not an avenue or an option that we're going to take, especially when you have professionals telling you that this is a real option that you need to consider? You've got your faith there, but what was it like in that moment? Why was it? I don't know if it was easy for you to say. You've spoken about how it was difficult, but for you to bluntly say to them, no, this isn't an option for us. What was it, would you say, that made you guys, solid in that regard?
I'm meant to be a father, so I'm supposed to be looking after my children when they're in good health, and when they can defend themselves, or when they're in, like I said, good health. Imagine being a father when a child is helpless, and you're saying, "Yeah, you know what? I agree. My son's life isn't worth it. Pull the plug." Yeah, you can't say that. You can't. It's not. I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I would never be able to live myself if I ever even thought that or even said that. It's just you had that staunch belief, and you're like, "That's my son." Now they think it's a number. He's a number on the page to them, or a number in the system. Yeah. That's my son there. Like if a father, if a father's not going to defend his son's life, then who is going to defend? Obviously, the mother will as well. But the whole idea was like, no, this is like the thought that kept coming in that this is my son. I need to protect him. And except it was a blessing in a way that when I said it was so much to take in, it's almost a blessing in disguise. You're kind of ignorant as to what the road ahead is. You're thinking, I'll just tackle it. We'll get through it when we get to it. If you kind of understood, it wouldn't have changed my mind. But if you understood, they explained it. But there's a difference between explaining something and actually going through it. The worst came 6, 8, 12 months later when you actually lived it. Before his liver transplant, that was real tough. Right. We had to feed him at specific times throughout the day and morning, every 3 hours. So you're getting up at midnight, you're getting up at 3 a.m., you're getting up at 6 a.m. Then going through this, and then because they have to feed him through the tubes that go down at that time to his nose down to his stomach. Sure. Now he had a very sensitive gag reflex, so if he vomits, we have to do it again. But then you have to be careful not to give him too much, because if you give him too much food, his ammonia levels go up. And then we are literally jumping at shadows, but that's later on. But saying why, to go back to your earlier question, we are charged, we're giving a responsibility to look after and defend our children. And literally, he was at death's doorstep. If you're not going to defend him then, or your children then, you're not a real father. I don't mean to sound offensive, but come on, man, you're not a real father. Don't take the easy road. It's not meant to be easy. It's joyful. It's beautiful. But you're his father. Imagine standing before our Lord saying, I gave you a child, a special child, and you said no. A child, not only that, imagine your child is down, walking here, falls over, hurts himself, are you going to ignore them? No, you're going to run and help them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine you walk past them and just cold-heartedly ignore them? No, I'm not going to, just left them. Or you get a call from, God forbid it happens, from one of your children later on saying, I need help, I'm in trouble with that. No, not helping you. Look, this is your newborn child here that's,
And he's in front of you.
Right
You
there
can
in
see
front
him.
of you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the sort of fight mode kicked in after like
So
5 minutes.
would you say it was more of a natural instinct more than just you being grounded in your faith, which is obviously another thing that was there, but was it a natural fatherly and motherly instinct where your child was laying there and you said, we need to attend to our child.
Absolutely,
we need to be there for him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Steeped in the faith, obviously. But it's at the same time, you have a child. And I tell this to any person who's getting married now, and they ask me, with your situation, just hope for the best, but keep in mind that the worst can happen, and make sure you are prepared for that. Don't worry about the child. It's easy when I say the child, it's easy to know what the child needs. The doctors have said this is what you got to do, and we follow that. It's you that needs to change, and you are the one that needs to rise to the challenge. You are going to have to make some changes. That's the toughest part.
Yeah,
that's the toughest part to adapt to. And you've got to dig deep and find strength that you didn't even think you had. And sometimes you don't even have that strength. You've got to rely on friends and you've got to rely on family. And that's why I'm going back to what I was saying before. Surround yourself with people who are of the faith, because after we've made our decision, Joey, I think, and my sister Maggie, both obviously committed Catholics, came up to me afterwards. This is weeks later. They go, even after you had that meeting, the nurses were coming up to us. I think it was you and Maggie, wasn't it? They were saying, they go, maybe talk to them because the doctors think it's kinder that they let him go. They were and then Joe and Maggie, thank God, stood up and said, they've made the decision, leave them alone. Don't bother them. That's it. Don't try bother. That's it. Leave them alone or we're going to, that's it. They've just gone through a very traumatic time, right? They don't need any more pressure put on them. So, and that's, you rely on other people. That you're saying it's, it's a stigma for men to talk about these things. It's also a stigma for men to ask for help. It's very humbling and it's tough because we want to fix things. By our nature, we want to be the ones that fix it. Sometimes you have to recognize no. With Emmanuel, the wife is the lead, not me. She just tells me what to do. I'm like, yep, all right, no worries. All good. Thank God.
Yeah.
And that's just a testament to her. She tackled this head on. All right, what do I need to do? Emmanuel now, just coming forward to the present day, so he got a liver transplant. So he's immunosuppressed. So every time he gets a fever, he has to go into hospital because they go, if he catches something that, something real bad, like a staph infection or meningococcal or anything like that, or something quite serious, we need to get to him early, otherwise he won't be able to fight it off. So she goes into hospital, and now she's at the point now where she's telling doctors, all right, I need a line right over here. You get this, you get that. And they're like, they know her first name basis at Westmead. They love her. Yeah. And she's the one that's telling him, I need this, I need this. Don't put the catheter here because his vein is not good there. You need it over here because then it might,
Amazing.
She's basically a doctor without the certificate.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
But don't be afraid to ask for help and to talk. I'm not a guy who really talks about his feelings openly. Like, this is kind of new to me. It's funny. I've only got really one good friend. My friend, and it's Joey. Got family as well, obviously, very important. But I'm a bit of a closed book. That's just my personality. Talking for me really, really doesn't help. When I say it doesn't help, I recommend it to other people. But it's just, we'll talk about it, and Joey asked me, do you feel better? I'm like, yeah, no, kind of, yeah, sort of. Like, yeah, we talk. But I know it's for someone like Joey. Talking makes him feel better. My wife is a talker as well. Like, she's a very, very sort of social type of person. She needs that. Where me, I prefer to be alone. Like, I'll do silent retreats and all that type of thing. That's my way of recovering, or my way of just sort of.
Yeah, I think the difference is it's not about the advice you give. It's a matter of making sure it's not bottled up. If you're bottling it up, when's it going to release? And that's the biggest issue. So that's where I find for me, talking to people, it's not about the advice you're giving. It's just knowing that I'm getting it out of my system.
Yeah,
I think also, and you touched on it as well, which is women just have this naturally as women, they are able to speak about their emotions a lot easier. They need that type of interaction, whereas with men, commonly...
I don't know. I know that's a
So
I think I'm talking about the stigma.
precedents.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things like this, I'm not sure. Like, I just feel like because they go into mother mode, that perhaps maybe they think that, you know, I need to do this and I can do this, and aren't thinking of themselves. They're so selfless that they're not thinking about how they are feeling and how they get through it.
Mm.
And I think that's what needs to also change.
So you're saying, Joe, you're saying that they, in the moment, in these particular moments, they're focused mostly on their child, that they're not even focused on what's happening. And that's very true, because I've actually seen that as well, with, you know, on a much smaller, more minor scale, what my wife has been through as well. And seeing that too, they become very selfless. But I think more about the stigma, it's just naturally, and maybe we can talk about this, why is it the case? You know, and maybe we need to be a little bit more, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for us to try and break that stigma in a way, particularly when it comes to these types of things. But why is it the case that women are able to naturally speak about things, whether or not they choose to do it in the moment? When they have the opportunity, they can do it. Whereas it's clearly a lot more difficult for men to be able to get to that point. You've said, and I'm actually very similar to you, I prefer isolation, I prefer silence over anything else, contemplation, dealing with it on my own. And I think just as men, we're always called to be the fixers. So, you know, and, you know, my natural instinct is somebody tells me something is wrong, especially in my family, and it's like, out of the way, I'm going to fix it. Kind of thing. And then there are certain things that happen that cannot be fixed, and it just kind of makes you have like this internal conniption where you're just like, what do you mean I can't fix it? You know, and then you just retrieve further into isolation because you're like, I can't fix it. I don't know how to do anything else other than fix, you know, and then, you know, and then the least you can do is be supportive to your wife, who's clearly the one that's doing more of, I mean, in our cases, and you can talk through yours next, Joe, is the more hands-on one. So then it's like, the least I can do is be supportive of her, you know. But then just from a, I guess, and I want to get into this because I think this is really important. Is really just like what a father actually experiences in these moments, because we don't hear about that very often. Because a lot of the time the focus is on the child, and then, you know, on supporting the mother, and then the father is typically left on the side, not in a malicious way, but it's just kind of the natural thing that happens because of the roles that we assume. So I want to deep dive into that a little bit later.
All right, guys, does your foot roll in like mine, or maybe even roll out? Or do you just need general treatment for nail and skincare? For any problems with my feet, I go to MJ Podiatry. They're a mobile home visit network servicing all of Sydney, offering expert podiatry care for general treatments, sports injuries, custom orthotics, ingrown nails, and footwear advice, and offer NDIS and home care packaging. Visit mjpodiatry.com.au, call 0412 389 278, or email info@mjpodiatry.com.au to book your appointment today. Use code ATG10 for 10% off your treatment.
But Joe, so Louis, we know your story now. Thank you for sharing. Maybe share yours, and then I'll share a little bit about mine, and then maybe we can deep dive into the struggles, particularly from a fatherly level. So if you're comfortable.
So Leah was born actually about 7 weeks after Emmanuel. So he was born on the 1st of August. So natural birth, typical birth. There was no issues, no complications, thank God. But developed and just all of the standard upbringing as a baby. Louis is her godfather, and it wasn't until about 2 where we noticed that, well, as a baby she was sitting a lot. She wouldn't climb or crawl or anything, but she'd sit, and we just thought, oh, she's a chill baby. Like, you could sit her in one spot, leave the room, come back, and she'd still be sitting there. So you were just like, yep, she's fine.
How old was she at this point? Sorry.
So she was sitting at, say, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't crawl until she didn't really properly crawl, and it was sort of like that commando crawl. But she started walking more around 18 months. So we used to go swimming. We still go swimming, but when she was about 12 months, climbing out of the pool was a task. And for her, she would just lay there and not get out. And then that was one of those things where we were like, oh, she's lazy. She's just a lazy baby.
Right.
You'd take her to the park and climbing the ladder, she wouldn't try to get to the next step or anything like that. So it was all just put down to lazy. She's just a lazy, chilled baby. So there was no telltale signs, so to speak. But she, when kids start walking, they sort of waddle and walk like penguins or ducks.
Yep.
And at 2, she hadn't kicked that. And she wasn't running yet. And she, to get up the step in the front of the house, she'd hold onto the wall and stuff like that. So we looked at that and went, okay, maybe we should start looking into it. Maybe there's a hip dysplasia or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we took her to the local doctor, and as soon as she walked in, why is she walking like that? So that's why we're here. So they referred us to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician... Oh, the other thing was when she would get up off the floor. So if she was on the floor and she went to stand up, she'd stand up, and it was very ginger, and like she'd arch her back. Later down the track, we heard that was a positive Gowers sign. So, which is something typically in muscular dystrophy. Mm-hmm. So looking at that, the way she walked and the way she got up off the floor, the pediatrician was like, don't Google it, but I think it's muscular dystrophy. Mm-hmm. You start with don't Google.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
No problem. Mind you, we had just had our 3rd child. So Nate was born in January, and we had this meeting at the beginning of February and had the pediatrician appointment. And because we had a newborn, I went to the pediatrician appointment on my own. Jolene was at home with the baby.
So Leah's your second, and then this was all happening already by the time you had your 3rd child.
Yeah.
So
we didn't know
yeah.
while Jolene was pregnant with Nate that there was any concerns. It was more just at the end of the pregnancy that we were looking into it. We started to go to physio, and physio would bandage her legs and strap her to a treadmill and just make her walk to try and correct something. And it was like, this didn't feel right. Like, it was so aggressive and such a weird way to try and correct a problem that it was like, well, we don't know any better, so we're going to trust the process here. But that was sort of what started. And then once we had heard that, I remember it was a day where I was still working. I just took time off to go to the appointment, came back. I was like, yep, here's Leah. I got to go. Oh, they said it might be muscular dystrophy. And I just left it at that. And I left that information with my wife to absorb with a newborn and to look into it. And I didn't think anything of it. And then I remembered my brother had a friend whose son had muscular dystrophy. So I spoke to him, and that's when it was a bit more of an eye-opener.
Drives the point home, eh? There's always that one moment.
Because it was...
Yeah.
It was... It was...
Take your time, Joe.
The irony is, it was wheelchair by 10, and Leah had her wheelchair by 5. But it wasn't even like, it was just that shock. She doesn't have muscular dystrophy, by the way, but it was that shock of, oh shit, this is bigger than we thought this was going to be.
It's gone to that next level. Yeah.
And because Duchenne's muscular dystrophy is the one that most boys have, which is, you know, degenerative and in a wheelchair and shortness of life. For that, to hear that was such a big shock, and it was like, okay, this is bigger than we thought, and I now need to think of how do I deal with this, but also stay strong for my wife and my family. And yeah, it was easier to battle it alone, if you know what I mean. So stay strong in front of the wife, cry on your own. So that was a good journey. I remember talking to you a lot about that, and it was so ironic that we both went through such a similar thing so quickly, and it helped having someone close by that was going through a similar cross, that it just, because talking to people want to give you advice, but people don't know what to say, and whatever they say doesn't do anything. Like, if you're not in my shoes, you don't know what I'm going through. And that's with any kid with special needs. The amount of people that want to help and they want to be there for you and they want to do these things, it's all appreciated. I don't want to sound rude, and I don't know if I want to say it, but it doesn't necessarily help.
It's like they're well-intentioned.
Yeah.
Well-intentioned, but it has the opposite effect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I think you mentioned. Oh, Joey messaged before we started this. He goes, "What are some of the misconceptions?" It's that you're like, don't pretend to understand what we're going through. You don't. So I don't mean if you want to help, just like wait for us to. Can you help us with this?
Yeah,
thing, right? Like
there's sometimes you have that cry for help, and it's picking up on that.
It is. There's sometimes like some people have said to me, and it takes all every fibre of my being, just like they mean well, don't bite at them. They say, oh, but you wouldn't have Emmanuel any other way, right? And so there's one person I'm like, I'd have him healthy. Sorry, but I would have him healthy. Yeah. But this is I go, I know you mean well, but I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. Yeah. What I meant was like, he's so beautiful. Thank you. It's a fine line between trying to tell them, don't say anything, but they mean so what they want to help. You know what I mean? But he's 100% right. If there's someone that's talking about try this, try that, and you've got children but you don't have a special needs child, I'll be like, all right, cool. In my head, I'm like, you got no idea.
The amount of remedies I've been given to take. Oh, send her to the beach and let her stand there when the sun rises, or get boil lentils and only eat lentils, or just have aloe vera as a soup, or whatever it is. But all of these things are going to cure our daughter, but no one in the medical world can figure out what she has.
There's an opposite part of this as well that I don't know if it gets spoken about at all. And I used to get angry at Joey for saying this. I've told him, because, this is what's going on with Leah. I know it's not as bad as Emmanuel. I'm like, no, it is for you. It's the same thing as going with Emmanuel, or with whoever's got a kid with autism or whatever it is. For you, that's your cross. It's big. It's huge. It's the biggest thing in the world. It's your child's health here. So yeah, they may not be the exact same condition. The effects are exactly the same.
The cross is different, but the weight's the same.
I said it to a parent. I know exactly the thoughts that are going through your mind at night. I'm pretty sure you've been crying, once a week, twice a week sometimes. And they just freeze. Like, how do you know that? I'm like, I get it. Trust me. I do understand what you're going through, right? It helps when someone's in a similar situation or similar experience. Because just that sort of understanding means like, this guy gets it. He gets it. Or this woman or this whoever understands what I'm going through. It connects with you. And for some reason, I can't explain why, it does help. Like Joey will talk to me about it, and I'll talk to him about Emmanuel, what's going on. and you do feel better. But you're trying to explain it to this other person that, again, bless them, but they're trying to help. Like, oh, that, I can understand what you're going, or that. I mean, they don't mean to say the wrong things. It's just that they do say the wrong thing. Not the wrong thing. It's just like, I get what you're trying to do. It's just, but it does help. Like I said, if you're a father struggling with these things, right? Talk to someone, seek them out that in a similar situation, because you find comfort in the fact that, hey man, I'm not by myself here. Like there's other people who have got pretty much the same struggles as me. Like the amount of parents that at school that will sometimes talk to me, they go, how do you handle this? I'm like, 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, one breath at a time, one Hail Mary at a time, mate.
Yeah,
that's the only way. I go, don't try and. I'm the biggest overthinker there is, right? I hate it. I can't stand it. The wife hates it too, by the way.
Same.
All right, but it's just you lay a bed at night. Like recent, we'll go on holidays, right? And the first holiday we went on as a family with my parents, whatever. Emmanuel got sick the next day. We had to spend 3 days in Gosford Hospital. And it just, you're forever planning your days out, weeks out, preparation. Recently, we just went through a bit of a crisis at home as well. But it's just, it always helps when you talk to someone who's in that situation. They just get it. Yeah. It's like talking to someone who's never, like, about footy and they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. It's like, you don't get it. What do you
Can't connect with them.
But no, that's what it is.
I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, because, like, maybe even the people, your listeners, Anth, who don't know anybody who have children with special needs, or who don't have, obviously, children with special needs of their own, can maybe learn from this, in the sense of there are, as you said, everyone's well-intentioned. Yeah. They just don't know what to say in that moment, maybe because, firstly, because they don't have a child with special needs. Yeah. And they just, the intentions are good, but then it's just like, what do I do? And then, even before this interview, Anthony, you said, how do I refer in the most appropriate way to these children? And is it children with special needs? And I said yes. But the reason you asked that question was because you don't have that many people in your life that struggle, or who have children that struggle with those needs, special needs. So then let me ask this to the panel. How do you guys suggest, particularly for those who don't have children with special needs close to them, how do you suggest is the best, or what do you suggest is the best way for them to approach somebody who they come across who has children with special needs? Can
I just add to that question as well? Sure. Is not just in their verbal response, but even in their, even almost like their body language and their facial expressions.
That's a lot easier. That's the real one, actually. Like my daughter goes to the local public school, and the kids are amazing. The adults don't know how to deal with it.
Wow.
So she's in a wheelchair, and always when I'm unloading the wheelchair to put Leah in, there's always the other parents walking their kids to school, and you can just see they're not looking because they don't want to. It didn't happen. Oh, if I didn't see it, then I can't deal with it. It's too sad, or whatever it is. Like, they don't address her. It's like she's invisible to them, but their kids don't see the wheels. It takes one day to get over that novelty, and then she's just another kid like them. Yeah. So I think, don't be shy in approaching those kids. The best adults are the ones that go, oh, I love your chair. And don't be shy to have an honest conversation with the parents. Like, not having that, oh my God, poor baby, what's happened? But having that honest conversation and just trying to dig a little bit deeper and just understanding what's happening.
Like, how are you guys managing? How are you guys going through this situation? Are they the type of things more would you expect from an adult an interaction more in line with, like genuine curiosity as to how you guys are traveling and how she's traveling?
Yeah, less pity, more curiosity, if you know what I mean.
I always say to people, don't make suggestions. Just ask us what you need. Like, so if parents are like, there was one that messaged me on the side. He's like, I have no idea what to ask, man, but tell me how I can help. I'm like, I think, okay, beautiful. That for me was perfect. Not try this or do this and do that type of thing. I'm like, ask them, say,
authentic.
we don't know. It's authentic, but it's refreshing to hear that we don't know how to help, but we want to help.
Yeah.
So tell us what you need us to do. And that's where I'm like, okay, to find it, like if there's any advice, you just speak to the parents and say, look, either on the quiet or if you're depending on your relationship with them, say, what can we do to help? Right, anything, whatever it is, and that's how you would best approach it. If Joe is right, I mean, again, it depends on you as a person, because believe it or not, some people actually thrive off the pity. There's a kind of, I wouldn't call it a dark side. There's another side to it where people, I've got a special needs child. Why aren't you approaching me? Why? Come on. And I don't want to get into that because that's just by the by. But there are some people who genuinely feed off pity and are actually strengthened by it. Someone gets it. Someone noticed. And it helps. It does help. It's really tricky. Like I said, to try to give out advice is like the best way I can say is understand the person. If you know this person in and out, you don't need to know. Like, you don't need to really, you know how to approach him. Yeah. Like Joey knows how to approach me. If he calls me 3 times, I don't answer. All right, leave Louis alone. He's not in the mood. And that's what happens, unfortunately. Where with Joey, if I call Joey, like we were going to meet up later this week, we're best mates, but we see each other, once every couple of months, if that?
Yeah.
We talk every day almost on WhatsApp. But yeah, well, that too. But we see each other once every couple of months. Right. But it's when we're together, it's like we've seen each other yesterday. We keep in contact already, obviously, with phones and whatever, pretty much on a daily basis. But it's real tricky because unless you know the person and how they react. So if you're a stranger or if you're a person who kind of doesn't sort of, like, you know the person but you don't know how they will react to the help, just don't sort of make suggestions or whatever. Like, just speak to the person on the side privately and just say, hey, what can I do to help? Is there anything I can do? If it means going for a cup of coffee or just you need me to listen or you need me to help with a shopping run, whatever it is, that's how I would approach it. Not, this is what I want to do for you. No. You tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. That sort of that sort of authenticity goes a long way.
Not only that, there's days that you want the help, and there's days you're good. You know, like you go through that time where you're like you're in autopilot, and yes, the days are hard, but it's just part of the routine. You've got this therapy, you've got that, you've got school, you've got swimming, you've got all the activities to juggle, and then there's days that you just can't function. You know what I mean? So it's just...
like, as a parent as well, you need to look after yourself. It's okay to say, I need a day or two to myself or just a few hours to... Because if you got to look after yourself to put your best version forward for your family. It took me a long while to understand that. I felt guilty every time, like, I'm going to Joey's house tonight. And the wife's like, fine. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah. No, I'll stay. The amount of times I counsel them, I'm not comfortable, man. I'll have to stay at home with Teresa. And she'd get angry at me. She goes, no, you need to get out of here. Like,
the best version of yourself is the best version for your family.
Right? Yeah. And that's when, later on, when things kind of settle, that's when you start to do your, look, Teresa would go out with girls' night, all that type of thing, or, we do, like, do my own thing, whatever it is. Right. There's no shame in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There absolutely is no shame in doing it. You are human after all. You need it's a lot to carry.
Yeah.
You need to sort of give yourself that little bit of a break. Like, you're kidding yourself if you think you can keep going and not stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get to the point where you push yourself too hard and you do hurt yourself or you do fall sick or whatever, and then you're out for an extended period of time. It's actually hurting your family more.
Yeah, more damage at that point.
So,
just to touch on the interaction with these, is it fair to say as well that, sometimes when people come... I mean, particularly people you don't know, but it could actually also be family, direct family. They come up to you and they give you these suggestions of this is how to fix it. It can also come across as a little bit like undermining, and not just undermining, but also like
you're not doing enough.
You're not doing enough for your child. I've experienced this myself in the sense of people trying to tell me what to do, and I love taking feedback and advice, by the way. Genuinely, I can take advice from anybody. But when you sense this feeling of like, I don't know, maybe like judgment is the wrong word, more like you haven't considered this, and it's like this is my child, my flesh and blood. There is nothing and nobody more important in my life than my child. You seriously, and I don't say this out loud, but it's like, you seriously don't think that I have not considered what you're telling me right now in a passing kind of comment, like, and there's that.
You get to a point where you kindly respond, absorb it, and when you walk away, you've absorbed that information. Yeah. Thank you, and you're just being respectful to them in that moment.
So it's like in one ear, out the other. In a sense,
not in a rude way, but in the sense of we've tried everything humanly possible, and we're doing everything humanly possible.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support and your recommendations. And beyond that, what can you do?
It's like
the nicest way to say thank you, but no thank you, if you know what I mean.
It's like all you expect is an acknowledgement of like, you're their parent, you're their father, you have their best interest at heart, and expect that I have my child's best intentions in mind and at heart. I've already considered all of these things, and instead of saying, do this, it would be great to have you, like, it's not like we're rejecting any help in a sense. It's like, we want you on board, but allow me to be the leader of my family and trust that I have my child's best intention at heart, and it's like people just, when they speak to you, sometimes it's like they undermine your role as a father, as though, maybe you haven't considered everything like humanly possible, like you said, for your own kid. It's like I said, nothing and nobody is more important, and they're not the ones having the sleepless nights. You are. And the sleepless nights comes from the care and worry that you have for your child, considering all avenues and all possibilities.
It's not leaving any stone unturned, but there's also a way to turn those stones.
Yep.
You can't necessarily just, oh, well, have you done this? It's like, well, we have to do this first before we get to that stage. Or, of course we've done that. But for us, because we have no diagnosis, we don't know what the next stone is. So before I calmly lost it before, essentially where Leah is now is, so she was walking and was able to, participate in most daily activities, just with a little bit of a struggle. Whereas over the last, say, 8 months, she's declined in a way where there's no more walking. And even just her limb movements have reduced. So feeding, sometimes we need to feed her, grabbing a cup of water. She can't get her hands to her mouth, just depending on the day. There's no reason. There's no way to say, oh, she's had a big day. It's just every day is different. But yeah, she's undiagnosed. They've done MRIs, muscle biopsies, blood tests, paneling, everything under skin biopsy. We've done skin biopsies. All of those tests have happened, and it was at Randwick as well, but they haven't found anything in modern medicine in Australia. So we're at the stage where people go, oh, why don't you go to Germany? I'm like, okay, cool. What doctor? What do I tell them she's got? Like, it's cool to suggest that, but what am I going to go there with? Here's my daughter. What's wrong with her? I don't know. Like, there needs to be a title to start. So as much as I'd be happy to go to China, to America, to the UK, to Germany to heal my daughter, we need to know something before we do anything. So our next step is to get a second opinion within Australia. So now we're going to Westmead just to get a new set of eyes. And I said that to the doctors. It's like, no disrespect to yourselves, but we've essentially hit a brick wall and a dead end now. So that's not acceptable, because clearly something's happening where she's regressing. What does that mean? What does tomorrow look like? So we need to know what we're dealing with. And a diagnosis doesn't necessarily mean a cure, but at least it gives you a pathway. So that's the journey ahead. And like that, like you said, people suggesting have this, do this, go there. You can do that if you know the title of what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And but even with that, whether you've got OTC deficiency or you've got autism or you've got epilepsy, there's different grades for every illness.
Absolutely.
So every person, let alone child, reacts and responds differently to every treatment. So like with our 5th child, we decided to keep the cord blood from the umbilical cord in the event that it will benefit Leah down the track with the, progression of science and whatnot. Maybe they can use the stem cells once we know what we're dealing with.
Wow.
So we haven't left any of those options on the table.
Thank you for sharing that.
Can I ask, like I'm someone who, even like when a child chokes, I panic, right? So to be in a situation where you're sort of left in the unknown, like this is just a child coughing, and I freak out. Like I can't imagine what you would be going through in a state. And even Louis, like in your case, when you weren't sure, when Emmanuel was in the hospital, going through that process of the unknown, not actually knowing what's wrong, and this is a question for everyone, is like if you can just speak a little bit into just your experience in that unknown, like how
It was
do you sort of get through it? Yeah,
it was the unknown part before Emmanuel got his diagnosis, and then that helped, and then that period between diagnosis and liver transplant was like it's the unknown. You don't know what could happen tomorrow. If I give him 10 mil extra food, or we overfeed him by that little amount, it could affect him. How you deal with it, really, there's no real black or white answer. It comes down to you as a person and how you handle it. How do you handle situations? Like how do you handle pressure? How do you handle anything in life? Like I don't want to call these trivial things, but how do you handle, if you're a university student, how do you handle studying pressure? If you're at work and you're real busy and you're a senior boss, how do you handle that pressure? It's going to be coming to play as to how you handle. This is obviously far more important with a family. When it comes to a sickness of your child. It's the sad thing is, and the hard part is, there's no real answer. It comes down to you. So I wish I could say to you, do this. Here's a list of things, A, B, C, D, you'll be fine. There isn't. It really comes down to you. You've got to find that inner strength to try and get through each day. One thing that's just come to mind, if you can, don't try and think a month ahead. Think an hour. Okay, what's today? What's your battle plan for today? Bit by bit by bit. That's probably the only best advice I can give. Try not to overthink it. I'm the worst at doing it. Yep. I'll try and think weeks ahead, and it drives me insane. But that's
small wins.
Small wins help,
Yes.
right? But it's like I said, it's just a roller coaster. You'll be a week where you're like on fire. You're going all VL Army kick out on everyone. You're smashing it, right? And there's other weeks where you're just like, just get me through this next hour. If I can do this, I'll be fine. And you're exhausted emotionally, mentally, spiritually, everything. And then other things start to happen. That's how you get, like I said, when you're saying, how'd you get through it? Honestly, it was, like I said before, a minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour, prayer by prayer. There's no hard, fast answer. If it means therapy or seeing someone, go do it. If it means praying, obviously go do it. If it means talking to someone, go do it. There's different answers for different people. Sometimes it doesn't help. I speak to parents at school where their children, it's not a physical, it's a mental illness. And that's like, people say, oh, your situation can't get any worse. No, with people with, children who are suffering from mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, that's a whole new level on its own. You know what I mean? It's quite scary. But if I can give you, there's no real hard, fast answer, unfortunately. You just have to roll your sleeves up, get through it, day by day. And that's just the way it is. I think if you're honest with yourself and you accept that, it may make that cross just that little bit more bearable. Like, I don't kid myself thinking Emmanuel's going to walk one day. No, come on, man. He's not. Barring a miracle from God, that is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Emmanuel's going to run around one day. No, he's not. Emmanuel's going to be forever feeding through a tube in his stomach. You accept that reality, you embrace it, and it does help. But there are going to be days where, and it's okay, that you're going to be weak, and you're just going to feel like, I'm struggling here. And how you respond to that kind of fall back onto how you've responded to these situations in the past, whether it's been studies, work. Think back into your own stressful, some stressful situations you've been in your life. How did you handle it? Fall on that if you can. If not, ask. Speak to someone. That's probably, like I said, there's no black and white answer. But that's, probably the best answer I can give, really. Like, going through it, you're navigating blind sometimes. You know what I mean?
I would agree with what you said, and I would like kind of piggyback off that and say kind of the theme of what you're talking about is like character. Yeah. And it's all about really like whatever it may mean to each individual. Each person has a different personality and different strengths and weaknesses, but the importance of character building is like crucial in life because you just don't know what will happen ever in your life.
Yep.
Ever. Like literally you could wake up tomorrow and your whole world can be flipped upside down, as you explained it was that day when you got the phone call about Emmanuel's and same Joe about when when they alluded to potential muscular dystrophy, and now you living in the state of the unknown, which must be like, on a whole nother level of difficult, because it's like, you just don't know at this point in time. But then the character building and then the living small wins, living each day one step at a time, planning for the next hour. I can imagine that would be the best possible way to deal with these types of things. But yeah, I would just, in terms of the things that you were speaking about, I think character building, I think everybody needs to seriously assess their lives. If you feel like life is good and easy, that's great. Thank God for that every moment. But you just don't know. And I'm not saying that everybody will have, everyone will have to some degree some sort of like suffering and difficulty in their life, and you need to be able to prepare for that. And the best way to prepare for that is to work on your character and like you said, Louis, assess in those times of difficulties how you've responded, where you responded well, and work on that, especially for men. This is mainly for men, given the fact that our nature is to really just try and fix things and be the rock in our families and be the strong ones, in our family. Then that's in my opinion, that's the best thing. That's the best bet we've got. And then in addition to that, speaking to people where you can, if you can. And I'd encourage men to do that, by the way. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that this is something that I easily do, because it's really like not within my nature to do these types of things as well, open up like this and to speak to people and be vulnerable. But I do think it's a great way of, Joe, the fact that you brought this up, this is amazing. I don't know how far we've gone in, but the things we've touched on already, I don't think anybody... I've never seen, in preparation for this podcast, I was researching on YouTube just to see if anybody had done anything like this before. I couldn't find anything, let alone in the Catholic sphere. I couldn't find anything like this. Yep. So I think we're already doing great things in that way.
You mentioned that this isn't something you normally do. Mm-hmm. In your experience with your son, have you spoken to anybody about how to... Navigate is the buzzword whenever you're speaking about special needs, but navigate the world that you're living now?
I speak to my wife a lot, to be honest. I'm very blessed to have a wife who is, just like we get each other. We're on that same kind of journey and level of intellect, so to speak. We can kind of communicate really well with one another, and I'm very open with her and she's very open with me, so I'm blessed in that sense. Other people, no, not really. I would just to be completely honest, I wouldn't. I'll share a little bit about my story, which, to be honest, I don't think I've ever shared to anyone apart from, maybe I'm looking at Tash just to like correct me if I'm wrong, maybe to a couple of very close like priestly friends that we have, but kind of our journey with Jacob. So Tash fell pregnant with Jacob, very standard kind of first few weeks of pregnancy. And then, you know, with Selena, my oldest, we left that as a surprise, the gender, all the way. And, you know, we were surprised to see that we had a baby girl. But then this time we said, you know what, for the second, let's find out the gender. It'd be nice. No one in our family's ever done a gender reveal. I was like, let's just give it a go, you know. It wasn't going to be this big thing, but we were like, let's just kind of, let's do it. So then, you know, Tash went we went together. We did one of those scans. And we left, and they wrote down what it was. They didn't tell us what the gender was. And then I think it was a couple of days later, we got a phone call. Tash got a phone call from the sonographer, and she was like, "Oh, I think I got the gender wrong." And she's like, "Can you come back? I just need to do another ultrasound." And we were like, "What in the world? Like, what, amateurs? How do you get that wrong?" You know.
There's one there or there's not one there.
Yeah, there's either one there or not. So that's what we were thinking. We were like, what, amateurs? But anyway, little did we know that was just a reason to like bring Tash back and not freak her out before she got there. And then they explained to her, actually she went on her own with this one. Typically I would not let her go and do these things on her own if there was anything ever wrong, you know. But like we were just like, oh, they just got the gender wrong. So then she went back on her own. And she said, look, the real reason I called you back is because we noticed some sort of an anomaly on the pregnancy, and I just want to double check. And she did do a double check, and they actually noticed 2 cystic hygromas on Jacob's neck. And for those who don't know what cystic hygromas are, they're like extremely fatal kind of bags of fluid that are like kind of cysts that are on the neck, and they're filled with fluid. And I think the fatality rate is 99 point something %, basically.
Wow.
So it's basically guaranteed death of the child. So I get a phone call from Tash. She's hysterical. She's just, you know, crying and whatever, and I'm just like, what in the world is going on? So then, you know, she's explaining it to me, and I'm like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Like, what the heck? You know, just the usual response of a husband. It's like, don't worry about it. Don't listen to these sonographers. They don't know what they're talking about. And, you know, then I found out what a cystic hygroma is, and she's reading it to me, and I was just like, oh, geez, this really does not sound good at all. And then we start to kind of dig in a little further, and, you know, it's bad enough to have one cystic hygroma.
2.
Yeah, let alone 2. And a large cystic hygroma was considered, I believe, 3 millimeters or something like that. And Jacob's was like 7 and 8. So he kind of, he had like a very severe case of cystic hygromas. So we continued on. We went to the GP for the official results of the scan. And the GP basically said to us, I can confirm these are 2 very large cystic hygromas. The most likely outcome will be death for the child. And then she said, I highly recommend a medical termination of this pregnancy. So it was interesting when you spoke about that, Louis, because that reminded me, and I wasn't going to bring this story up at all, but the fact that you spoke to that, I just thought maybe it's important to speak about this as one of the topics. And basically we just like, well, Tash was just like bawling her eyes out. I started crying too. I was just like, what in the world? Like, you do not expect to hear this type of information ever. you know, and then you just find yourself in this moment, like it's, you know, everything is slow. You think you're in like a movie, and then these people are just saying things to you that you see typically on a movie, and you're just like wondering what's going to happen next in the movie, and it's just like it's happening to you in reality. So they were like, you know, we highly suggest medical termination. And, you know, our response, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we literally just said to the doctor, sorry, we don't do that. We don't believe in that, you know. And that was just like the natural response that we had, given that we are practicing Catholics. We just knew that to be the natural response, even though, to be honest, I have no idea what we were actually thinking in that moment, because you're just completely caught off guard. But that's what kind of what we just said. And then, you know, the doctor said to us, trust me, my cousin had a cystic hygroma, and there's no chance this baby is going to survive. These were her words. The baby's cysts will grow larger than the head. Is that what they said, Tash? Yeah. So she's like, the cysts will grow larger than the head, suffocate the baby, and the baby's going to die anyway. So that was basically what she was saying. And we were like, listen, we're not doing a termination. Like, can you just recommend us to a specialist, please? Like, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, you're a GP. Just send me to a specialist. Like, it's the first I've ever heard. And, you know, I think she got a little bit embarrassed then, to be honest, because she was like, oh, you know, I don't believe in that either. But, you know, I just have to. And we're like, okay, just give us a specialist. So in any case, we went and started seeing a genetic, one of those genetic specialists. What are they called? I don't even know what they're called.
A geneticist.
Yeah, he's an obstetrician. That's it. He's an obstetrician specializing in genetic abnormalities. And he was like, he's a great professor. He's like one of the top professors in the entire country. And he was very gentle and empathetic and all of these different things. And he was amazing. And basically he like did an ultrasound, confirmed that they were two cystic hygromas. He says without a doubt they're two cystic hygromas. He could see the fluid in each of the pockets. And he just said, look, the best we can do is kind of just, he reiterated that it was a high chance of death in the baby. He said, we'll just continue to monitor it. For now, try not to stress, you know, easier said than done. You know, we went home and probably had the worst, how many weeks?
They did an amniocentesis.
Yeah, an amniocentesis. Yeah, that's right.
Because they said that if in the highly unlikely chance that the baby would survive, they would have like.
Oh yeah, sorry, I missed that information.
Turner syndrome, something.
Yeah. So I'll just explain what Tash said for the sake of the microphone. So they did an amniocentesis, however you say it, where they kind of put a big needle in her stomach and take the amniotic fluid out. And then they basically said that even if the baby survived, it will almost certainly have like a genetic abnormality like Down syndrome or Turner syndrome or something like that. So they said highly likelihood of death. In the tiniest possibility that the child survives, they will come out with some sort of severe genetic abnormality. So it was the worst, probably like few weeks. I can't remember how long, 8-9 weeks of our lives. People, close family trying to be there for us, trying to help and whatever. But it was just like we were the only ones alone in the end. So, it's like for those few minutes, it's nice. But then really you just go back to the silence of your bedroom and deal with it yourselves. And it's very difficult. And thanks be to God, we actually experienced a miracle. So I say it very casually, but my wife and I know this very intimately. We prayed to St. Jude. We did a novena to St. Jude. We asked a few different people to pray for us. And I don't know how to explain it any other way, but to say that we experienced an outright miracle where the two cystic hygromas completely disappeared. We went back to see the specialist, and he did like a 40-minute ultrasound and basically just wouldn't say anything. And we were sitting there like, what's happening? Like, tell us. And, he was like, I need to finish my ultrasound. And he gone at 40 minutes just sitting there in silence. And we're just like, what the heck, hurry up, and I'm thinking like I'm looking at the screen, like trying to pick anything out, like I'm a sonographer or something. But, anyway, and then he just kind of puts it down and he just looks at Tash and he says to her, "They're gone. The cystic hygromas are gone." And then we're like, what? What the heck does that mean? And he was just like, "They're gone." And he kind of just said, "If you were to come and see me now, having not known your history, I would have expected a completely healthy pregnancy." And then we were like very confused by that, because we were just like, I was like, thank God, like I was like, thanks be to God. I was so happy. But Tash wasn't. Like, she was just like shocked because she didn't believe it. She was like, that's not right. Like, everyone has been telling us for weeks and weeks and weeks that this is, and by the way, this was a confirmed case of cystic hygromas. This wasn't like a kind of like, oh, maybe it is or maybe it isn't. Yeah, it wasn't a miss. Like, there is only one. It's very
You can't
plain and
miss
simple.
them.
You can't miss them because
And
they were large. Yeah, they were extremely large.
Cystic hygroma typically is like 2 millimeters, and this was like 7
Yeah,
to
I
8,
said
but
that.
2 of them
Yeah,
were
that's
like
right.
huge.
Yeah, so cystic hygroma is typically between 2 and 3 when they're considered large, whereas these were like 6, 7 centimeters or whatever, millimeters, whatever they are. Anyway, so the point is that there was no chance of a misdiagnosis. So they were diagnosed, but then we experienced a miracle, thanks be to God. And we were by the way, I'll say this, even in like, I think there's only been like maybe a couple of cases of like healing in like the world that they've ever known of. But even in those cases, there's scar tissue, like folded flaps on the neck.
Yeah, didn't have them.
No, so when he was born, like kind of, we were so happy, and then the first thing we asked was like, please check his neck. And they were like so confused, the midwives, because they didn't know what the history was really. Because when you're discharged from that unit, it's just a normal pregnancy from that point, so they don't really look back. And they were confused. They're like, no, everything's fine. And we were looking and we were like, wow, like there was not a trace at all of these cystic hygromas. Sorry for the long spiel of that story, but the point is, I think, like, firstly, the point is, thanks be to God, miracles actually do happen. We got to experience one, and I pray every day that people who go through these types of things get to experience one in one way or another. But then the second thing is the concern that I have that doctors just so easily offer these types of solutions.
Exit strategies.
Yeah, exit strategies, yeah. I mean, if we had listened to that GP, she would have signed the certificate or whatever it was, referral for a medical termination, and Jacob would not be alive today. He's beautifully healthy, thanks be to God. And apart from these little sensory things that that God willing he'll grow out from, and whatever we're working towards, which is, by the way, there are some struggles there which I can talk about that we go through, just because, I mean, there's different things, but apart from that, he's a very, very healthy boy.
Thank God.
And he could have been, he wouldn't have been alive today had I had listened. And you know what? Had we not had the faith, the Catholic faith, and even though in that moment, to be honest, we didn't know what we were feeling. These were professionals telling us.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
And
best thing you
persuasive.
can do. They're very persuasive.
That's
Oh,
the
my
scary thing.
goodness.
How many people have just taken the advice because they're the medical
Yes.
professionals,
Yep.
and unfortunately have lost children due to that fact. And I haven't gone through it myself, but I'm imagining it's not something you ever forget.
No, never.
I've heard of a lot of people that have done the harmony tests and whatnot in their pregnancies, and there's a high case of autism, and they've terminated. But exactly like your case, who's to say that child wasn't going to just continue that pregnancy and, lack of a better word, outgrow whatever they're seeing within the womb?
And then in Louis' case,
Nothing.
for those who where your child remained with the difficulties that he has at the moment, and this is what I wanted to touch on as well. Talk us through, what are some of the positives, the joys that your boy Emmanuel has brought to your lives? What are some of these different things that you didn't expect from a positive? We've spoken about the difficulties, but speak about it from that sense, because as Joe said, there are people who take that route, and by the way, I have to preface it with this: these medical professionals are extremely persuasive, as we said. So there's no judgment on anybody who has experienced something like this. And now that I have gone through something like this, I can attest to how persuasive these doctors are.
Yep.
And thanks be to God, we had the courage to push through that and make the decision to proceed. In other cases, there are parents who aren't able to continue, and they take that professional advice and sadly terminate. In your case, you continued, you persevered, and you now go through this with your child. What are some of the joys that you experienced
Multiple fronts, from a spiritual, from a secular point of view. So now I'm in New South Wales hospitals, thanks to Emmanuel. So he's metabolic professor. I forgot her name. Anyways, was pushing, say we want to use Emmanuel as a case that we have mandatory ammonia testing at all hospitals before, who present like Emmanuel, and they put it through. So if a baby presents now the same way Emmanuel did, if they can get to him quick enough, like if they've known when Emmanuel came back the second time after being born, if they'd known what it was then and there, he wouldn't have had the brain damage, right? But it was just that it's just I don't say they're too slow. It was just too late.
Yeah,
it's a nice way of saying it. But now using Emmanuel's case, they'll be able to push through. I think it was legislation basically saying every time a child presents this way, ammonia testing has to be part of the mandatory testing. And that will go and that will hopefully go towards saving lives or saving, illness, or early diagnosis is the key.
Yes.
So from that point of view, it was a big win. Obviously, it was a great win. From a spiritual, the amount of joy that he brings anyway. Emmanuel, I remember one of the nurses at Randwick saying, because obviously we were completely new to this, and she said to us, she goes, "Don't think of Emmanuel as a special needs child. Just think this is Emmanuel, and that's his personality." And it helped a lot. It helped a lot, just the way he is now. So he can still communicate with us in ways like he can't talk; he's non-verbal. But if I go to, do these ones to him, and I'm going to where he knows what's going to, he starts laughing because he knows I'm about to tickle him, right? You've got to sort of, in your own way, make the best of the situation as you can, and that kind of reflects. It forces you to become a better person to improve. It's almost like an examination of conscience.
Yeah.
How did I go through the last few years? What can I do better? What do I need to avoid? What do I need to get better at? The outpouring of the support we get from families, I think you'll probably, God forbid you have to experience this, but if anything does happen to your family, the Parental system, the Monk Road, the schools that we go to, they will jump out of their way to help you. Just recently, my wife was in hospital, and I was at home with Emmanuel, and we didn't have to cook meals for 3 weeks at all, and they were all visiting her in hospital each day. The support that we got, and I haven't even touched on family support.
Is that the one that we got a message about? Was that your wife?
I think so, Teresa Hanna.
Yeah, we got a message because we go to the Parental school that Louis is speaking about. And we got a message. You're right,
Teresa
No,
Hanna.
it wasn't Teresa.
There's many.
But we can just attest to what you're saying there, because the support is amazing, particularly at these schools, because we get messages, saying that these people are going through a difficult period, and then they kind of send you a calendar, and you kind of put your name in as to when you're going to cook dinner, lunch, or breakfast, lunch, or dinner each day, to ensure that there's meals prepared to alleviate that burden from these families. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that level of support. It
broadened your mind as well. When I say broaden your mind, you could be, or me, I'll speak from my perspective. I was kind of like, this is my life. I don't really, not that I don't care, but I don't know what's going on else. You can relate to other people's sufferings a lot better. It does really humble you, if you allow it to be. That's the other temptation. You can harden your heart, or you can actually become more humble and say, this has happened, or you can live in denial and say, no, I'm not, And I know people that have done that, and you've got to talk them down, basically saying that you've just. They'll ask me. I think you asked me before, saying, "What's the advice I could give?" Or how did you navigate that? And someone asked me that same question in a similar situation. I said, "What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say it's going to get better?" Now I'll say that to you. Tell me what you feel inside. You're going to think I'm lying, and you'd be right. Okay, tell me. You want me to say to you, "Oh man, do this, and it'll get better." You know what the situation is. Sometimes it's best to be honest with yourself, and that's where from my personal perspective, personal situation is that, I mean, it helps you be completely honest with yourself, right? And not only that, you bring that to the forefront in front of your other kids and tell your other children who, like my other children now, two oldest girls know how to feed a manual now. Like they're basically nurses themselves.
Wow.
Right? There's another little sort of win that you get. But allowing their parents to say that they've struggled, right? And struggle isn't something to be feared. Depends how you react. It's something to be embraced. It will become good if you embrace it. What we're trying to show our kids that, yeah, we're in a tough spot at the moment. And it's tough, but there are good things that come out of this. But it also makes you stronger. I used to get sick to death of anxiety from work. I wish I could go back to those days. You know what I mean? I still get stressed. Everyone gets stressed out from work, but it puts everything into perspective. It's like I got a deadline tomorrow for a few jobs or whatever it is like that. No, but Emmanuel's at home. He's not in hospital at the moment. So who cares?
Totally.
You know what I mean? From a spiritual point of view, at first, it's the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months after everything happened with Emmanuel, just to throw something else in there, while this is all happening, Emmanuel's in Westmead, I get made redundant from my job. And I remember calling Joey up, I just got made redundant. He's like, yeah, Lord's testing you this year, man. Like, I go, to be honest, it came as a blessing in disguise because I didn't really like the job and I didn't have to really think about work for the next couple of months. So it came at a good time, really. But it's just, putting things it puts things into sharp focus.
Totally.
Like it's what really matters in life. Yeah. And in faith, the first 4 or 5 months of that, I was in sort of autopilot mode. Mass, confession, rosary, all good. And then I remember catching myself one day. I'm like, man, why isn't the faith helping me? Like, and I was kind of having a little, I don't know, it was a conversation with the guardian angel or with myself. I'm like, why isn't the faith helping? Like, I don't feel like I'm growing. And then I just remember for an hour just going back and forth within myself, just asking, are you really praying? Or is it just words? Is it vain and repetitious? As it says in scripture, I'm like, so then how do I pray deeper? And then you start to follow that path. And that's different for everyone. I've had some spiritual benefits there, a lot. It just kind of, if you do the same thing over and over again, it could be faith, it could be work, whatever, you start to sort of become a bit stale towards it. It becomes part of the norm. It's not the exception, you know what I mean? Where our faith is supposed to be that thing that stands out, that's the center of our life, that feeds and nourishes and strengthens every other aspect of your life. For me, it wasn't at that point. But you put it down, now speaking to a couple of spiritual directors, like, just don't underestimate the trauma you just went through. Like, it's the human side that's suffering, not so much the spiritual side. So just keep going. And change it up, and he made recommendations, and, it helped, definitely helped. Raising awareness, we've done a lot of, we did a Jeans for Jeans Day campaign with Emmanuel where he was on buses and all that type of thing. We did a walk for leaping, I forgot what it was. But we just basically did a walk raising awareness for Jeans Day.
Great.
So you get involved that way. And I would be the last person to put my hand up for something like that. But it forces you, it challenges you. Yeah. And depending on how you respond, depending how you take that mindset, will make all the difference in the world. Yeah. Keep in mind, you've got a wife and 4 other children basically watching you. Not just watching you, counting on you. You really don't have a choice. Yeah. Because if you crumble,
everyone
what happens?
Crumbles.
Basically, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think happened? Like, how would my wife handle it if I was just, if I wasn't, doing all I can to help? Yes. How would Jolene respond?
It's important that you need to be that present father as well, not just being the father figure that provides. That's fantastic, but you need to be there to help every day and to, if your partner's not strong that day, then you're the one carrying, and vice versa. When you're not there, they're carrying the load, and understanding that it's a team effort to get through the journey.
So how do you stay so, like, you guys came in, you were having a laugh, you're cracking jokes, you're, like, you guys are very joyful people, and I guess I'm kind of reiterating.
My whole family are going to start laughing to see this like that. They're like, what? Louis, joyful? It
was the pizza.
Don't underestimate.
It was the pizza we had,
yeah, good point, actually.
I think...
Don't underestimate a person's ability to adapt to a situation. All right? For me now, the situation with our family, it's now normal.
Yeah.
It's like you go through it. The repetition part where you're going through it day by day actually helps.
It's the
In a sense that
strengthening.
it strengthens you. It's like training for footy. You don't go out and play a footy game on the weekend without training. You're going to get smashed, right? But when you're doing it day by day, and the biggest part for me is the uncertainty has largely left. The uncertainty now is just when Emmanuel, if I get a call at work, all right, Emmanuel's got a fever, I've got to take him in. All right, it just throws things out of whack. But you learn to it. It's happened that many times. I used to absolutely dread the call to the point like the first few weeks. All right, Emmanuel's at home now. This is what we're going to do. It's all very new to us. You can go back to work, and then you get a call. All right, he's got a fever. I've got to take him in. But it's happened that many times where now it just happens like clockwork. Like it's you kind of get used to it. You adapt to it, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think being exposed to the process that is now your norm helps you adapt to it. So for me, in our situation, definitely the faith helped us at the beginning because we still are in the unknown, but the unknown now is the norm, right? So at the beginning, I remember, calling on the local priests in our community. The Samaskans are a massive help, and, Father Chris coming over and just crumbling in his arms just because you hadn't opened up to anyone. And then from there, you just continue and you just learn how to carry your cross and realize how much that suffering is strengthening.
Yep.
And like we've just been through Good Friday, and Father Chris mentioned it in his homily that we're not saved from suffering, we're saved through suffering. So it's that cleansing and strengthening process that just gets you through. And now the biggest thing is, like you said, joy. We need to make sure that our kids have that joy. And if they're happy, just because it's not the norm happy, it's still happy. So, and that's the biggest struggle. Sometimes it's like, it's not fair that Leah can't do what the other kids are doing. But look at the smile on her face. She's still happy. She's there doing wheelies in her wheelchair or finding a way to be happy and spreading that joy. And I think that's the most important thing, because what happy looks like is what society thinks happy looks like. So I think we need to make sure that we know our kids are happy, healthy, and loved. How that looks is different for everyone.
Can I ask both of you, both have 5 kids, firstly, how tough was it? But now, how do you navigate through the care, attention, and focus you need to have on Emmanuel and Leah, and balancing that with looking after your other 4 kids and making sure that they don't feel like they're being neglected or forgotten?
So the first year for us was hard, but when I say we're blessed in this country, so we rely a bit on NDIS, and they send out carers to help the wife look after Emmanuel. So from 3 till 6 every day, so Teresa can go pick up the kids, or I can go pick up the kids.
Right.
Come home, homework, dinner, all that.
Great.
Thing.
That's excellent.
And that's, I know we've spoke, in terms of the politics that goes on, we're quite left leaning. There are a lot of good things that happen in this country as well. Sure. And NDIS is a blessing. Like the funding, I think Joey's obviously has benefited. Look, family have benefited in their own way from NDIS. We have the care is a big thing for us. Someone will be there between these hours, so Teresa then can focus getting the kids home, cooking, whatever, or we can do something with them. If we can get carers on the weekend, if we want to spend like time with the other 4 kids, but they're usually saying no. Well, let's take Emmanuel with us. Like, why would you want to leave them at home? Type of thing.
Yeah. Oh wow. So that's beautiful.
Then we do sometimes and it gives us I coach the daughter's basketball team. It gives you chances. Okay, you can have kind of you can still do the things you want to do as a normal parent, because that was a big worry, a big sort of not a worry, but a focus of Teresa and I was that our kids need to still have their childhood. Yes. We can't allow Emmanuel's situation to dictate it. They know it's there. We don't have to explain it to them. Yeah. They know what's going on, right? But we have to make sure that, Emmanuel's there, but in spite of that, you can overcome that and still do the things that you want to do as a kid. Basketball training, or go to your friend's house, or all that, whatever it is, have birthday parties, all that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's that like I said, in this country, we are blessed to have things like that. You read the stories in America, and they don't have any of this stuff.
Yes.
And you're talking medical bills in the millions, hundreds of thousands and millions. And I'm thinking, like I said, it's the political sphere is very left, but there are things here that we are blessed with.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, in terms of that's been a big help in terms of navigating the other children. In other ways, get them involved. Don't say, oh, he's a special need, you can do your thing. Like my oldest daughters, like I said, will help feed, clean, give his meds, whatever. The older son helps as well. Like if I'm not home, they'll pick him up out of his chair or out of his bed and help him. Like the wife encourages that as well. We encourage that. And hopefully it fosters a helping sort of mentality for the children as well.
Yes. Yep.
So we're teaching them charity.
Mm.
So yeah, there's multiple things that help in that way. But the best thing I can say, if you're a parent of a special needs child, I do recommend, and if it's at all possible, make sure the husband and wife, you guys spend time alone as well and keep that relationship going. It will, whether you like it or not, it's going to put strain on the relationship. May not be in a negative way, but it will affect it to the point where you've got to sometimes make a conscious effort to say, Tash, we got to go out for dinner. Let's spend time together.
Sure.
We need to focus on our love as well.
100%.
A remind of that. I wasn't not a big fan of it. I never really went into it until I realized how important it was for not just for me, but for Teresa as well.
Yeah.
It's filling that cup. You know, it's really making sure that the family is founded on you guys, and if you guys aren't strong, then the family isn't.
Yes.
So if you guys aren't strong together for each other, the kids are going to know. No matter how much of a front you put on in front of them, you need to be there as a united front, because you two have become one, and you need to make sure that foundation's always there. It's so important.
Yeah.
Just last week we went on a canyoning and abseiling adventure. I got some time off at the moment, and it was perfect time to, instead of just let's go have lunch, let's go do something different. And
like climb down the side of a cliff. It's real smart, man. It's great. He said, we're going canyoning. I'm like, you want to come back to your family, Joey, man. Please, bro. But it was,
No, but what it did show, it was like, so I'm not fit at all. Like I played footy 15 years ago. It was my last game. And look, for me, I found that like I really enjoyed it, but I also really enjoyed seeing like Jolene going through it. It wasn't easy doing the canyoning, but seeing how she persevered and pushed through it just showed the example of how she's getting through life in this way, and how we're both pushing through our own canyon of life. There's it
was very symbolic.
Yeah, it was really reflective for me. I looked at it as a way of seeing her in a different light.
That's amazing. Well done. Yeah, when you told me about that, and especially when you showed me those photos, it sparked something in me that was just like, I think I said to you as well, Tash sitting on the sidelines, but I mentioned that, and I was just like, we should do things like that, because you kind of get to a point in your marriage where you're just so focused on your children that naturally, like, I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Your children are first and foremost in your life.
But so is your marriage.
Don't think it's selfish to worry about you guys first. It's actually selfless, because you're really putting your whole family forward first by making sure that you guys are strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to ask, because we've spoken about, doctors' first response to these things are termination or letting him slip, I think was the term they said, Louis.
Let him slip away, yep.
Let him slip away, which is insane to me. But and then even, Joe, you spoke about like parents' responses, like at school and stuff, to seeing Leah. Do you think those sort of responses are a product of the idea that, and I'm sorry to even ask this question, but from the idea that because they're special needs children, their lives are worth less than the life of the other kids. And then if you would agree that, you know, it's a product of that, then what would be your response to that idea, that rhetoric, that their life is worth less than someone else's?
So going from the medical point of view, when they said that, society's gone that way and it's completely wrong. It's the devil's running rampant at the moment. I don't know if you remember stories of Alfie Evans in the UK where they literally locked the family out of the hospital because the hospital went to a court, got an order saying, all right, you guys are not allowed in there anymore because they wanted that child to die because it was severely special needs. But the parents are like, no, we want to look after him. We will pay for it if we have to. We know he's going to be like, you know, special need, all that type of thing. The hospital determined his life wasn't worth living. Now, how does that make you feel? Angry. And you look at that and you think, how have we gotten here? But it's it's unfortunate, but it's not a surprise. If you can kill a baby in the womb, you can kill a baby anyway. Like you cross that threshold, right? You're in, you've gone into the abyss. People say we're staying on the precipice. No, we're in, it's, society has gone that way.
I think it's life in general, by the way.
Yeah, in anyway. I mean, look what
even with the elderly, for example, or the sick. Or the sick.
Yeah.
Like I remember when my dad passed away. Sorry to jump in, but just to touch on that same point before you proceed, is like, I remember because I was the one dealing with the doctors. They had to appoint somebody as the primary contact. And I remember because Dad was in ICU on dialysis, all those different things. And then he literally said to me, you know, he's improving a little bit, but then we have to consider like the amount of resources we're using from the hospital and like what that's
he's
really
a number.
like. He's not going to really like... I mean, even if he does recover, like the quality of life, and they start speaking to you like that, taking you on a guilt trip as though like, you know, the amount of resources that we're using on your dad, as though like, he's a number. He's just one.
Yep.
You know, whereas it's like, hey, this is like my dad. He gave me life. He's like, he's a lot more than what you're just looking at him as in that moment, just because you're working 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. And God bless these doctors, by the way. I'm not trying to talk them down, but we do have a serious problem in the medical world when it comes to these things, and probably a lot of it to do with little funding, all of these things. We can go. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, like I think it's just life in general is like these hospitals. They're just probably so overwhelmed with the amount of sick people, the amount of whatever they see every day, that they become desensitized, and then they're just like, oh, well, another day of work. Another sick person, another death here, another death there, and they kind of just treat it systematically.
Yeah.
But even jumping in there, just to piggyback in there, like it's when you give them an unconventional alternative of how you want to approach it, whether it's chiro or approaching, you know, somewhere overseas, that's not the usual for them. They're not open to it. It's like, oh no, that's not how we do things. It's like, this is it. It's just exactly like that. It's that box tick. It's, well, no, if that's not going to work because that's not what we're told to say, right? It's like, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
it's like there's one way.
Yeah, it is. It's like I said, it's where we are as a society right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you can, and a life can be terminated at its first point of existence, or you know, at 9 months, or you know, with these new euthanasia laws that are passed. So look at where we are. It reflects really badly on us when we think of life as a number, and when we think of life as that. Well, it's not really worth it. Like I remember reading news articles. Meet Keith. Keith is going to go through assisted euthanasia today. He share his experience. I'm like, this bloke is basically saying I'm going to commit suicide or go, you know, I don't want to live anymore. He had sicknesses, illnesses, all that, whatever it was. But to go back to your point, like, you know, what do you say to that? It's like we've lost the plot completely is what's happened. You know, imagine if I were to tell you 50, 60 years ago that to a degree, I had to basically fight to keep my son alive and basically say, no, I don't want him dead. I want you to keep him alive. But it's kinder to let him die. And now, look, it's a reality today. So it's what we say, it's got to be changed, it's got to be reversed. We don't go to hospital. I think it may be a part of the fact that we relied so much on the medical profession to provide us help. They may, and not all of them obviously, but they're not working as a service to us, and they're kind of almost, you know, with an authority saying, with a bit of authority saying, not worth it anymore. Yes, no, yes, no. Like, when did we give them that authority? When did we give them that? The choice should come down to us.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's influenced a lot of people how they think. Like the amount of people that said, "Oh, do you regret with a manual or saying no, or whatever?" Like, oh, and you got to bite your tongue. I'd love nothing more to give them a smack in the mouth, but it's like, no, I don't regret it, and this is why. But then, like Joe was saying, there's so many people that just, even like as a whole, like when we're talking about abortion and all that type of thing, it's so normalized these days. It's everywhere. That's why, and it's become so normal, and we've become so desensitized to it. That's where it's not really, like, to us, it's horrific and it's abhorrent and all the rest of it. But out there, that's just the way we do things. Like Joey said,
I think
it's the easy.
It's all compartmentalized. Like, special needs kids go here and disabled kids go here, and it's not within the community. It's not something that they're exposed to every day, so that way that they don't know how to experience it, and they don't know how to interact with people that are different. Just because you're different, it's not right. And I think that's why it's easier to go, oh well, let's just give up, and I think
But it's a bit weird as well, because I mean, we when you deal with some of these organizations who deal with special needs kids, they get offended on behalf of the child sometimes. Like, they're sometimes your biggest defenders.
Wow.
And it's like, I mean, it's different departments, obviously, or in different areas, but it's like, where do you turn to? Like, some of these, like some of the teachers or whatever that look after Emmanuel will get angry at people if they refer to him a certain way or whatever it is. So
you can't.
It's like, once you've come, it's really weird. Like, it depends. Yeah, I think it depends on the situation and what. You
need to allow people to stuff up, like in saying, like, normal kid or disabled. You're using the wrong words. It's people don't know any better. You need to let them be exposed to it to actually have.
No, it just means at different times as well. Like when I was explaining where the doctor said let him slip away, and then there was other nurses saying that was saying, all right, this is Emmanuel's personality now. We're going to work with this. I'm like, you got one person saying over here, let him go. One person, no, fight for him. Another one's like, this is Emmanuel's personality. It's like, why can't it be just a one supportive message? But
I think that's the key. It's a personal opinion.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's that's where we are as a society.
It's funny what I think it was you pointed out, which is with Leah, where the wheels are just like a gimmick that they get over with kids that they get over within a day, and then she's just a typical kid, right? So it's like, it's crazy. It is a subjective opinion. Everybody's got their own subjective opinion as to what normal is. Yeah. But then when you actually just trace it back to like children, the innocence of children, there's no subjective opinion there when it comes to, or subjectivity when it comes to kids, because kids in general, you just see that they just get on with it and they just enjoy any child with special needs. They enjoy them in that moment. I see Leah all the time playing with all the kids. Everyone loves her. They don't look at anything else other than her. They enjoy her company, right? So it's just crazy how the subjectivity only really occurs as we get older, and then I think it's just overly politicized. It's like, and then that's what happens in the hospitals, because then you've got one doctor who acts in a more conscionable way because they actually have, their principles and morals and ethics that they kind of live by, and then they're the ones that are on this side of the pendulum saying, consider this. There's plenty of support. There's this, there's that, and then you've got the other ones which are on the other side of the political spectrum, and they're kind of just like, they don't value life, so to speak, as much. So then they're just like, and it's kind of more, really, just to put it bluntly, it's just more about selfishness, I think. Like, it's just like, how this is going to affect you as an individual.
Totally.
You're not going to be able to travel much anymore. This is what your life's going to look like. You're not going to be able to go to work 9 to 5. You're actually going to have to get up a few times in the middle of the night and, medication and food and this and that. So then it's more centered around, the self-interest of the person. So then, I think that's what it really is. I think it's just, it comes down to adults just being corrupted in the political sense, and then filtering into the hospitals and into the workplaces, where it becomes overly politicized, and then now all of a sudden people have a subjective opinion on who's worth more than the other. And it's sad. And all you need to do is relate it back to kids, the innocence of children who haven't gotten to that level of developing, a political opinion, and they just look at these children as normal kids. So that's how it should be. And it's just crazy how it's gotten to that point. They don't see
prejudice. They don't see any of that.
Yeah, they don't see any of that. So,
but it's totally that, getting Leah into school. We were looking to enroll her into the local Catholic school originally. And that journey was one of the first ones that made us realize there's going to be a lot of doors that are going to be closed in her life. And it's a matter of how do we accept that? Do we just accept it and move on? Or do we fight for her case, for her? And it was one of those instances where we fought, and you didn't think you would need to going into a Catholic school to get, a child welcomed into the system. But unfortunately, there isn't enough avenues within the Catholic education system to support
cater to
these children. After fighting, we did get accepted, but we just didn't feel the welcoming that we got and the confidence that they would be able to support and care for Leah that we did to the local public school. So interestingly, we chose to pull our eldest son out, and they both go to the local public school. But it was that open arms and welcoming of the deputy principal at the time, and making you realize where is right for your child, and making those moves where what's the right decision for them. So,
what a shame! What a shame that in a Catholic school system that we don't have that level of priority and support to children who are most in need.
Totally.
Can I take this opportunity to make a plug?
Of course.
Can I do that on your
Yeah.
podcast?
Of course.
It's my house anyway. If you say no, I'm going to kick you out.
It's true.
So we're working on a independent school at the moment, the Samaskan Fathers. So, and I just want to put it out there, because the reason I'm putting it out there is because really what we want to do is one of the charisms of the Samaskan spirituality is, attending to those who are most in need. And the school, God willing, will be one that also caters towards children with special needs. So the reason I'm putting it out there is if anybody has gone through a similar situation to what you have gone through, Joe, or even not, and you're keen on a project like this, please reach out to myself via Anthony or Joe or whoever, because we'd love your support, and we're trying to really bring this project to fruition. So any support in any way, be it financial or any other way at all, would be very much appreciated. Sorry to plug that, but it was just appropriate because just
the lob was there.
the kind of way you were going through. Can I just throw in one more comment, because I know we've been going for a while and the memory card's probably getting a little bit full. But we didn't speak enough about God, I don't think, because we've spoken about our experiences and we kind of touched on how God kind of helped, throughout that journey. But maybe one of you guys speak to it first. How involved was God in your life prior to your children, Leah and Emmanuel? And how does God play an active role in your lives now? It's particularly in supporting you through the journey of dealing with the difficulties that come with looking after a child with special needs.
Yeah, look, faith has always been there, but I guess it's how has it been there, at what level? It's not always, unfortunately, the front of mind, front and center. You're like, yes, I've always gone to church on Sunday, but the level of your faith and whether you're, how much are you really praying? You know, there's praying, and then there's really, you know, meditating on what you're saying and making sure that God is the priority of your day-to-day life. And I think it was definitely an eye-opener seeing how much a struggle would strengthen your faith. And I think that was probably one of the biggest blessings from being given such a heavy cross, because it allows you to look at every other cross within your life and strengthen you to just go, okay, well, I've got, you know, a bulldozer, and that's just a little speed hump. Because God gives you the strength to get through all of the daily challenges because of this big cross that you're carrying on a daily. So I found that with our faith and our Samaskan community, they've definitely helped understand and really make sure that Christ is the center of our lives, and that our children see that, you know, with God's help and with the help of, you know, Christ-centered people around you, you can get through anything. And our faith has definitely grown, and we see it. You know, I'll be there with my wife, and we'll be struggling, and like, you know what, we haven't been praying properly recently, and you can feel when you're down, it's because your prayer game is down. Like you've fumbled the ball. It's time to pick it back up and keep on going.
Great.
Oh,
Let's go for it.
for me, it's this whole situation. It gives it meaning. If you're a person who doesn't believe in God and doesn't understand suffering, or what suffering can do, you know, what hope does that give you? Imagine you had no concept or didn't believe in God, and you're going through this situation here. What is it? You know, where does that put you? How do you make sense of all this? Yeah, I've got a sick child, but what's the end game for us? The bigger goal is to attain heaven, right? For our children and for ourselves. There will be, I mean, so yeah, we were practicing family before Emmanuel came along. Like I said, I'd started practicing the faith when I was 18 or 19. So I grew up, like I said, and it would be, I think I mentioned to you before the podcast, we were Christmas and Easter Catholics growing up. Then I started, like I said, the wife-to-be at the time, Teresa, tried getting me to Mass. I'm like, no, don't need to do that. And then one day we were doing, Joey called me and said, there's a priest who was hearing confessions for people who hadn't heard confessions in a while. Why don't you just come along? I'm like, no, I'm fine. He's like, just come. And he hung up. I'm like, oh, well, he hung up. I better. And then that's when I started my journey back to the faith. But before Emmanuel came along, no, we Mass every Sunday, confession, trying to educate our children. But reflecting on it now, it was kind of like I was going through the motions. It meant like we understood the sanctity of, you know, Mass, obviously, and confession and saying the rosary and all that type of thing. But it's like Monday, rosary, yep, cool. Sunday, Mass, confession. This situation has kind of just taken that to a whole new level. Like it's thrusted, not just the importance, but it's like, all right, you thought you were suffering before. Here you go. It's almost like, oh, I don't know if this for sure, like with God's permissive will, whatever, whether he sent this and gone, no. This is what the faith is about. This is how you should be practicing your faith. This is what will give it more meaning. This is how you're going to change. As I mentioned it before, it's like this one big examination of conscience. I'm not practicing the faith today the way I was before Emmanuel was born. It's similar in acting, in practice, but underneath in spirituality and in, if you want to call it depth, it's a lot. I'll call it better, a lot deeper. There are prayer. Yeah, it just suffering gives you a whole new, different type of meaning and perspective on the faith as well. That's what I found. Like you don't really understand suffering until you go through it to varying degrees. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put anyone else's suffering down or anything like that, but this has just opened up my eyes completely. You know, you could read all the catechesis you want, you could read all the Bible studies you want, say as many roses as you want, but this was, like I said, but when you go through something like this, it can either make you or break you. And hopefully at the moment it's strengthened the faith. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just it takes you to a deeper, if you allow it and if you work for it. It's not going to do it on its own. You've got to sort of guide it, because there's always temptation just to give up. There's always temptation to despair.
Did you ever, either of you, ever feel anger towards God? And if so, how did you get through it? If not, why not?
It wasn't anger at God, it was anger at the situation. I mean, sometimes you'd say, come on, what's going on here?
Why?
Don't be there, why? And people have asked me, then how do you respond to that? I go, and what the answer I give them is somewhat controversial. I say to them, best way to do it is practice the faith, right? But don't expect any help, because you'll be amazed about what you can do, right? How much you can achieve on your own, like how much grace that God's give you. That's the big message I've learned. Where are you? Where are you? Well, look at the gifts I've given you. Use them. Look at the support you've got. Use it.
Yes.
Look at the strength that you didn't think you had. Use it. And that's where I've said, do all you can, right? And then if you need more help, speak to people, right? But anger at God, it wasn't, not so much anger at God. I mean, we've had conversations before. I think we've said, sometimes praying it doesn't feel like, no one's listening.
It's falling on deaf ears.
You've got to be real careful, because that's your human side talking, not your spiritual side.
Right.
You can get angry, you can get frustrated, but remember that's something that if you're angry, frustrated, whatever, it's not so much a spiritual battle that you need to fight. That's obviously very important. You've got to manage your human side of things. That's why I mentioned before, make sure you have your breaks, go with your wife somewhere, take some time off, because that human side of things can really influence.
Even Jesus had that human nature on the cross.
Why
have you forsaken me?
Yeah, sure.
That's the one thing I tell them. I go, make sure you're getting your rest or whatever it is that you need to do, because that can influence the other side. People, there's a train of thought up that if your spiritual side is strong, your human side is strong. That's true in a lot of the cases, but don't underestimate.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like if you're feeling depressed or whatever, and you allow it to slip to a point where it starts to affect your faith, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think with that though, you mentioned even Jesus needed help carrying his cross. So with that suffering, you've got your faith and your spiritual community. Your faith community within like-minded Catholics or your priests. Don't be afraid to, seek that advice, because sometimes you're like, well, I think I'm doing the right thing, but you just need that extra boost.
Yep, absolutely.
I think you guys have spoken into something really, really beautiful. Like, and this is something that I'll say about life in general, because obviously I don't know the experiences of being a father at all in general. But I think it's such a beautiful thing that you talk about not just sitting there and expecting miracle after miracle.
Yep.
It's like God has given you these gifts. He's offered his grace for you to participate with.
Yep.
Or and go out and do things yourself, and so and even to point like at Christ on the cross, he's there and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And the most beautiful thing about that is that it's often, I only learned this recently, but when he says that on the cross, he's actually quoting the Psalm.
Psalm 22. Yep.
Yeah. And that's about like God's, basically about God never forsaking you. He's there constantly. He's always there. He's, ultimately he wins the battle, right? And so in your suffering, it's beautiful to even reflect on that. Is like, God, don't leave me here. Don't leave me here. And then it will lead you back to that Psalm, which is in the end, you're going through this suffering, but in the end, God reigns.
Yep.
And that Psalm kind of reminds us of it. But it's like, it's act. It's actually do something yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, through the grace of God, but you need to be doing something yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Which is beautiful.
Because our actions are a reflection of God. People see we're meant to be that physical example, right? So people see God through us. It's one of those prayers that I say with our kids every day. Most importantly, Jesus, everyone sees you in me. So at least people, it's how are you presenting yourself to the world? It's a matter of making sure that people see God through you.
And it's okay as well to have those questions sometimes. Like people sometimes won't say exaggerate, but it's not a crisis of faith to sometimes say, hey, God, why aren't you helping me? Where are you? Think of it as an opportunity to explore your faith deeper, or to expect to further.
Why
your
am I
faith.
thinking this?
So why are you thinking this? People always say to me when I'm having chats, whenever you point the finger at God, remember there's 3 fingers pointed back at you. Ask yourself the question: why are you asking this? Like, what is it that's led you to this point? And think of it. Take each crisis or situation or challenge that comes as an opportunity to grow in faith. Don't think of it as a threat to your faith. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like making it happen for yourself. There are some things where you genuinely need help. Look, there are some things sometimes it comes back to humility. There are some situations you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, the wife could be in hospital, Emmanuel's at home sick, 3 kids sick, this has happened, that's happened. All you can do is just roll your sleeves up and get through as best as you can. And that's all you can do. And accepting that, it takes a degree of humility. Us guys especially like to think, like I think you mentioned, we want to try and fix it. Sometimes it's better to say, I can't fix this. Right? And say, okay, I just have to navigate through this the best way I can.
Well, then you're putting a level of trust and faith in God by that point, because sometimes, I struggle with this all the time. I just want to fix everything. And then it's like you kind of contemplate and you reflect and you're like, okay, but, how much room am I leaving for faith in God and trust in God? I'm trying to take control of everything. I really like what you spoke about in terms of like kind of leveling out the human side versus the spiritual side, making sure that they're both in order, because it's it can be dangerous for one to give because it will just naturally affect the other, particularly the human side, and not to underestimate the human side. I really like that because that's important. And just to share in my experience, this Lent in particular, I kind of explored further the basically like fasting. So, we always kind of fast in Lent, like, you give this up, give that up. But then I actually explored it for the first time on a much deeper level, where,
a lot of people were asking this during Lent.
Yeah.
I remember saying to Joey, I go, the fasting thing ain't, like, not that it's not working for me, but it's like,
oh, right, yeah. All right.
What more can I? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it, because I'm
a lot of people have said to me,
hear what you say.
Fasting, giving up, whatever, it seems kind of repetitive. Mm-hmm. And I think you were about to say, do you explore what?
I explored it a little bit deeper in the sense of, firstly, not just giving something up. I kind of adjusted it from a practical level, but then I also, from a spiritual level, I did it for a purpose this time.
Okay.
Not just for the sake of discipline within myself. Mm-hmm. I actually utilized fasting in a way where I was offering it towards something. So this year, I would think of an intention for somebody who needed my prayers the most.
Yep.
And I would say, God, today my fasting is for this person. And basically I attempted this year to go, nobody has to do this, but I kind of did it. I just said, I'm going to fast for 24 hours, which I had never done. I had never fasted more than maybe 14 hours, the standard intermittent fasting that you do for health reasons. But I was like, today, God, I'm really going to try and fast for 24 hours. This is something that I've never done. But if ever he was to be listening to my prayer, I would hope that it would be now, because I'm really attempting something that I've never done before. And with God's help, I actually went for 40 hours. I was trying to go 48 after that because I kept going, but I went for 40. And then, but what I found was that when I did that, it brought my mind and my body to a level where it was in line with my spiritual kind of state.
Yeah.
Because even when you're hoping at any point that you're focused in prayer and you're you're getting in that routine and that God's hearing you and that you're trying to pour your heart out to him and be authentic and genuine. Sometimes, as you said, Louis, when your body is not at that state, you just can't seem to get the spiritual things right.
Yep.
I found that fasting really allowed for that,
To level
it up,
Yep.
because it's like the first time where you're like hungry and you're not in total control of everything, and you're just like, I don't know, I just found that being hungry allowed for me to be more contemplative, also feel that hunger, and then in that moment remember that I'm hungry, realize it, and then offer it up to God. And it just allowed me to be more solid in my spiritual life. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. It was a personal experience of mine. It was the first time that I ever experienced fasting in that way.
But that sounds like a quite complete way of actually fasting, in the sense of too many people go, oh, I'm giving up meat all of Lent. And then the problem is, oh, would you like something to eat? Oh, no, sorry, I'm fasting. It's like, it's not about, about that. It's like the first reading in Lent is always about, making sure you put oil on your head, and no one knows. It's your personal, promise to God.
Yep.
And the fact that you were offering it for someone's intention every day meant that it was front of mind that you were making that sacrifice and you were offering it up. So it made it a lot more meaningful, which makes more sense.
Yeah, and like it was hopefully worthwhile for the people that I was offering it for, but then it was more just like on a personal level, getting that balance right.
Yeah,
and it was the first time, to be honest, the only reason I'm sharing it is to hopefully, I mean, it's not for everyone. I'm curious to hear what you think about my explanation now, given that everyone has different experiences on fasting, but like that, it was my experience that with this attempt at fasting, it was me forcing my human side to be in order and kind of adjusted for proper focus on my spiritual life and my spiritual development. And it was kind of, it was just that equalization, or equalizing, whatever, if that's a word. Anyway, what's your...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go.
No,
tell me.
Sorry, I was just going to say, it's actually a true thing. Like, the one of the reasons it's better to pray when you're fasting, like in the midst of your fast, is because when you're physically hungry, then you look to fill yourself another way, like to nourish yourself another way.
Yeah, sure.
And so if you're physically hungry and you can't eat, you're fasting, then you look to nourish yourself spiritually instead. And so your prayer becomes more focused, it becomes more intentional. Which I didn't know until this Lent as well. And they were the most effective times, even like when I was, doing a holy hour, and people, always say, I always hear people saying, like, of their experiences in holy hour, and they got the answer they were looking for and all this stuff. And I'm like, I've never really experienced a clear thing like that.
Yeah, no.
But there's still such beauty in, and there was such focus and intentionality in the holy hour, in just sitting there before Christ. When I was like, in the morning is when I did it best. But when I was hungry, and I eat 20 times a day, but when you're physically, hungry, that actually, it's actually a thing. You're more focused on nourishing yourself another way, and if you do it spiritually,
it's actually science, by the way, because I didn't realize this, because I actually went on Google and I started researching why. But that day when I went for 40 hours, which was the first time ever that I had gone past 14, I went to 40. I went and I had, because I was doing the Exodus program, as you know. Some people know the Exodus 90 program. Part of that is, one of the disciplines is that you have cold showers. So after the 40-hour fast, I had a cold shower because I was just following the disciplines. And then I came out feeling like superhuman. I'm being serious. Like, I promise, like, I can't explain it. I literally felt like I was laser focused on every single thing that I was looking at and doing.
Yeah.
And everybody speaking to me, it was like, I've never retained information to that level ever in my life. Everything was slower around me, and I was just like, why? I was like on Google, and I was like, why do I feel superhuman after taking a cold shower after fasting for 40 hours? And it's actually a science that it improves mental clarity and release of dopamine and all these different things. So so you can imagine why even on a spiritual level that you're able to like properly communicate, you know, to God when you're just at that level of mental clarity. So anyway, the reason I brought it up was just to touch on, which I really liked what you said, which was just getting that balance right and not to underestimate your human side and not to just be like, stuff my human side and I'm just going to pray. It's like, no, actually you got to focus on both because they both hold weight.
It's from a book I read called Spiritual Battles. I'm trying to remember the author.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a priest and he just relayed conversations that he had.
Right.
So someone would come up to him and say, Father, I'm struggling with the faith. Now, real example. Why are you struggling with faith? I just don't feel it with God. Okay, why? What are you doing? Well, I've been working a lot more lately, been eating unhealthy, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, well, you've been working lately. How much have you been praying? How much, like what Joey explained before, how much have you been praying? Not much. What have you been eating? Getting takeout every night. He goes, you do realize having junk food all the time actually has an effect on how you, it actually gets you depressed, right? Now, who wants to pray when they're depressed? Like we should, obviously, but it just makes that effort that much harder.
Yes.
And that's where I read this book, and he explained really, he goes, sometimes it's not always a spiritual barrier or things that you can do to help your spiritual life. And that part of it is taking care of yourself.
Yep.
And then there are other examples where there were mental, health examples that he gave as well. So if you're sitting in front of the TV 24 hours a day or on your phone, how could that have a positive effect at all as to, you know, what you're doing? Or you're working, you're not getting enough sleep. All of these things have an effect on your spiritual life. And that's where I got sort of that idea from. It's okay, you've really got to start, you know, look after yourself as well, because not everything is, you know, a spiritual battle. You've got to look after your physical side of things as well, right?
Yeah.
To really reap the benefits spiritually as well. I'm not saying it's always the case.
No,
but it's
absolutely.
And then you got an example that you gave as well, where you kind of need to go to the other side of the not extreme, but get to that point where you kind of break through that barrier, that threshold.
Sure.
Well, you know, there's attachment that you've got to food or, you know, your phone or whatever it is.
Yep.
And that's a big thing I tell people is just focus on yourself, get yourself happy. For dads that are out there or mums that are listening as well, it's not bad to focus on yourself. It's not a bad thing. It's not selfish. Not to the point where you go buy yourself a $100,000 Mercedes or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm talking meaningful things.
Yes.
Whether it's prayer or it's a husband and wife going out on a dinner night. Or just going to the beach or doing things that actually... See, I love the ocean. Mm-hmm. So during the summer, I'll once every couple of weeks, I'll say to Teresa, all right, I'm just going to go for a swim. And that's how... It's my kind of way of letting her know, all right, she'll know, okay, he just needs to decompress for a couple of hours.
Yes,
I don't know why. I find the ocean soothing. I just love it. Mm-hmm. Come back, beautiful. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, it's good to see. It just shows how your faith is not one finish line. It's constantly changing. You know, it's a constant growth. You know, every Lent is different, and you learn through every time you fast or every time you actually contemplate where you are spiritually.
Yep, absolutely agreed.
Sorry. I was just going to say it is important, like, to look after yourself, and I think people find an issue when you say, like, to love yourself, because then they go, oh, it's selfish and all that stuff. But Christ literally said, love your neighbor as yourself. He assumed you knew.
Exactly.
That you had to love yourself. So, it's like a good point. It's like you guys have been saying all night, like all podcasts, is to look after yourself, to make yourself the best version of yourself is to give everyone else the best version of yourself too.
Totally.
Yep. Not always easy. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But for those listening, it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
Because the other side of it is when you do get it right, it's not yourself that only benefits, but you get the reward out of seeing your family benefit from it as well.
Yes.
I mean, that's the most important thing. That's what we're here for. It's a selfless act, marriage. It's not about you. It's about the other person. So it's very important. That's one thing I've learned that I've had to learn. I would never be before Emmanuel. No, it was. That's what kind of one of the things that broadened my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
It's okay. The wife will be like, it's okay to take some time for yourself. It's fine. You can go to Joey's house. I'm not going to die here. It's good. Just go. Yeah, but one stage, at stage, she begs me to get out. She's, can you please? You give me a break. Get out of the house. As a joke. But no, she's,
You're very lucky to have that. And actually, I'll say as well to anyone listening, to wives, I'm speaking on behalf of fathers now and husbands, be supportive with your husband in the sense of allow him to have that time away to recharge and then to be there for your families. And husbands, do the same with your wives. Allow them, even if they don't want to, because I know with mothers, they feel a sense of obligation to their children, and as we all do, but then they feel really guilty, completely when they leave their kids. But it's healthy to go out, recharge, socialize, get that support, so that you can mother your children in the best way possible, and vice versa for fathers. I was going to say, I'll say one thing before. I know you want to sign canvases, but this is more secular. But I listen to every now and then you go on YouTube and you listen to these talks. These different speakers, Jordan Peterson, all that. But there was one thing that he said that was interesting, and it's true, and I agree with it, which is you never properly mature in life until you have children, and it's because it's the first time in your life where somebody is more important than you. Yeah. And I can't tell you how real that is. Yep. Is that you can consider yourself, no offense, for anyone who doesn't have kids, but you can, and you will be to a certain degree mature, but you'll never experience true maturity until somebody in your life is finally more important than you, and that really can only be your kids. You can say that to be the case to your wife or husband, and it is to a certain level, but your children are really the only people in life who are completely and utterly more important than you, regardless of anything. And I think that's the only time where people experience that sense of fullness in maturity. So anyway, I just wanted to, that was just something I thought about, which I really agreed with in experience, because I'm only 32, and it was only a few years ago where I wasn't a father, and I really see the difference between a few years ago and now, having 3 kids, 3 very young kids. So moral of the story is have children. Please.
It is a joy. No, it is. It absolutely is. Even like I said, we are.
It's the hardest job, but the most rewarding job.
It is. Yeah. It's not to scare any people who are out there who want to become parents. The big message here is, it might be tough, especially with situations with special needs kids, but there's always hope. You know what I mean? And we're the exception. We're not the norm. So chances are it probably won't happen to you. But if it does, know that there's people out there who are going through the same thing as you, that you're going through, and reach out and speak.
And if you are a Christian or a Catholic, know that these things actually bring you closer to God.
Redemptive.
It's like, what an amazing opportunity. There are other faiths that teach the opposite, really. And thanks be to God that we have a God that teaches us that through sacrifice we get closer to Him, and it's not a punishment. It's actually it's a gift. And this, what each of us go through in one way or another, while difficult now, while hard, it will ultimately lead us closer to God. And that's literally what we're working for. That's why we're here at the end of the day. That's the end game.
Yep.
Sorry, I'll let you continue on with your canvas signing.
No, it's
now.
beautiful. Thank you. Well, our tradition is on the
ritual.
podcast that
What time is it? Sorry to jump in. What time is it?
11:30,
12.
11:40.
Jeez.
Wow.
I could go on forever talking to you lot.
I know.
That was amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Gotta do it
Thank
again
you. I'll
sometime.
bring the for sure.
You know what we
For
should do next time? We should, if we're going to continue this and do like a part 2, we should bring the wives on.
Yeah,
and get
you
the
guys stay with the kids.
maternal perspective.
Wives.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Yeah.
let
And the
you
wives
interview.
jump on.
That'd be nice. That'll be a nice contrast to see.
It would.
Great idea.
So what I'll do, thank you again for coming on. I can actually, I'm so sorry,
You're
I
all right.
stepped on your
No,
foot.
you're right.
I can actually speak into the microphone now because I've got the
'cause you're
lapel
wearing
as
it.
I'm doing this, so I feel a bit freer. I'll start off with Joe, and then we'll kind of come across.
Yeah.
If you can sign your name, signature, and then your favorite, the Bible verse or a message you have or anything.
I've got so my wife and I were doing a 30-day novena to Saint Joseph, and a Bible verse that spoke to us was Isaiah 41:10, which is "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I your God will strengthen you, and I will help you." So it was just really the right time. That message came to us at the right time, so it was something that we always remember. So I'll
Beautiful.
sign off with that.
Thank you. Wherever you like, yeah. That's beautiful. It's amazing how there's just a scripture verse for everything.
Yeah.
Or a scripture verse or 10 for everything.
Yeah.
Sign it.
Oh, sorry. No, go for it. Thank you. Wherever you like.
Pick a spot.
Yeah. I'll leave it with you.
Nice.
And I'll come back and see it. Here we go.
Depending on how good the Bible verse is, will depend on where you're gonna.
No, it's not a Bible verse for me. It's just
good.
something
Yeah.
like it's do everything through Him.
Beautiful.
That's the real. When all is said and done,
Bit of Philippians.
kind of, do everything through Him, and that's really the only way that we make the cross that we're carrying make any sense, and really for our benefit and our family's benefit.
Amen.
Yeah, and that's basically it. It's in a nutshell. I think it perfectly captures the essence of our faith.
Yeah.
You know,
Amen.
there's nothing that is redemptive, or nothing that is pure, or nothing that is of anything, nothing of value that is done without Christ.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's all through Him.
Yep.
So that's best way I could put it, really.
What do? I put my name. Sure.
Name, signature, and
Okay.
whatever you like. Any message.
And follow the dragons.
People are going to be looking at this and go, "Who are these guys?"
It's not in Christ. No.
I know we got Jason Sub, Francis Tamer.
No Francis Molo on this one.
Not this one.
This is the new one. This is the
Elias
new
Hanna.
one.
Who's that?
It's no, I enjoy it. Like we're just talking to
Yeah, it's very good.
just to everyday people, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing. Is like it's a great thing to speak to, you know, footy players and even priests. Like obviously is a beautiful thing to have and to listen to, but then just to speak to everyday people so that people can actually. I think it's easier for people to relate to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Sorry, we probably spoke for too long. It may need to be 2 parts, but
no, you're good. Our average time for this podcast has been 3 hours. So
oh, that's all right.
Wow.
for this season. So
Wow.
But what are you condensing it
been
down
okay.
to?
no, it's gone for long. It's been recorded for longer, but the actual episodes are averaging 3 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's long like we could have limited this to 1.5 hours. Thank God we didn't have to. But
Oh yeah, because of the memory.
yeah, because of the SD cards. But like there's something about long form conversations
Yeah.
that there's, even if people, you know, were listening and then sort of lost track, you know, their minds went everywhere, and then listening, and there's at least one thing
Yeah.
Yeah.
in 3 hours that hopefully they can get from that.
Awesome.
What did you put, Sharps?
I just put. So I had to search the verse because I couldn't remember whether it was 31 or 34, but it's Psalms
Give it to
34, 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Just
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
a simple one. It's one, yeah.
Beautiful.
Since I was a child, I've always remembered.
Oh, sorry.
And yeah, it's just it depends on how you translate it. The other translation is, "When you are brokenhearted, I am close to you." So, just a reminder for people, like when life gets tough, that God is always close to you. Whether you feel Him there or not, it doesn't matter whether you feel that He is there. He's
The truth is,
He is objectively there. So
Yeah.
It's like that. You guys have seen it, no doubt. The footprints.
yes,
Story,
yeah.
story, yeah.
Yeah, it's
love that.
a beautiful one. Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
one.
Beautiful. Well,
All right.
thanks. I'd like to say thank you again to Anthony for
Yeah,
allowing
thank
us
you.
to do this on
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
just giving us
Really
that
appreciate it.
platform to have this type of conversation. Hopefully it reaches, well, you've got a good following, so thanks be to God for that.
Hope
So
so.
hopefully people actually listen. And thank you, boys. Thank you so
No,
much, Joe,
thank you.
for recommending that we have this conversation. Like I said, I don't think it's really been done before. And if it has, it hasn't been done enough. So I'm glad that we did this. And Louis, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
And
Thank you very
so,
much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being vulnerable and opening up. I know it's not easy to do that, particularly for people like us men, but appreciate that you made the attempt to do that. Hopefully for the benefit of some other listeners who will take something from this.
Yep.
So,
No, thank you.
And I
Thank
know
you.
I have, so thank you guys. Thanks so much for having this conversation. And thank you for allowing me to ask all the all the tough questions that I would probably otherwise never ask.
No,
So,
no,
of
you're
course.
right.
so
Thank
thank you
you.
guys.
Anytime.
And just to end it as we always do, and I think it's a nice way to sum up what we've spoken about anyway, is to remember that our life is not our own. We belong to Jesus Christ. So don't be afraid to go against the grain. God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Well done.
Sorry for all the late starts.
No.